Greetings, comrades, and welcome to the Eastern Border. This is both a stream and an episode, well, episode-ish of the Eastern Border because I wanted to make this as clear as possible. This one almost drove me insane, and I'm not even kidding here because this surprised even me. For starters, if you're listening to this on the audio, yeah, this is the audio part of our recording stream because, well, it's gonna be rough. If you're just listening to this on audio, you will want to come back slightly later maybe and check the video too because you might not even believe me about what's gonna happen here. Because you see, when I wrote the article about the Civil War 2.0 by Kharichev, I thought that was that. I thought that that's enough. That is, as we're used to, talking about Russia, and that's their limit. And that's already a scary country with totalitarianism and schools and and patriotic education, all this stuff that we already consider horrible. And he openly stated that it's the highest honor for Russia, it's the Russian duty to go there and to die in combat. Well, turns out not really, because there is an expert, a historian, a Vatnik historian, Vladimir Kharichev, and he's on Maxim Kalashnikov's show, the Girkin's Buddies show. And as I just watched it, I understood I cannot include it just as is in the episode with just quotes, because some of them are too profound, because he really admits serious defeats and says a lot of very really revealing things. I understood that I need to also stream this so that you will also have a video reference material. So, if you're listening to this on audio only, please check out YouTube. If you're already here on YouTube, well then, hello. And as you can see today, I'm joined by my lovely and beautiful and excellent and, more importantly, smart and very soothing and calming wife Evita, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do this alone.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm also here.
Yeah, but you will be put to good use because this also includes a fan favorite. There will be Vatnik poetry at the end, or at in the middle somewhere. There will be one because it's related to this whole subject.
Yeah.
And if you wonder what the logo is of this episode and the thumbnail of this stream, then that is the logo of the Russian People's Militia, the one that is running and making cells all over the country, with which Maxim Kalashnikov and Girkin's buddies hope to secure power after the inevitable civil war, as they themselves think. Their slogan is vengeance is coming or something.
Vengeance is coming, yes.
Well, you might think, well, whom do they want to avenge? Well, basically everyone. Us here specifically.
Yeah.
But basically, literally everyone. We'll be playing the video now, and some things we'll just summarize after this happens. But there's going to be plenty of quotes, which, oh boy, you need to hear for timestamp reasons, if only ever that. It's something that truly scared me last night, because I thought I had seen everything throughout this war, but this really shocked me, because I did not even know that. I mean, I knew people could be this evil, but I I didn't know that you can be this horrible and evil and yet delude yourself. But that's the reason why they believe in conspiracy theories. But okay, we've babbled enough, and yeah, I'm also reading chat, at least hopefully. If you have any questions, YouTube live chat is the way to go. And here we go with Maxim Kalashnikov, and this episode is called About Threats to Russian Federation according to Kharichev, and about strikes on the warmth, thermoelectrical centrals like heating and power of Ukraine.
And his guest is Kharichev.
Yeah,
right?
Vladimir Kharichev.
Just so you know, Kharichev means, translates literally as hamster off. Yes, like hamster's almost son. just to make everything worse.
Yeah, this is one nasty hamster, and oh boy, this is gonna be rough. And I've seen it once already. Oh yeah, sorry, this one doesn't have any subtitles, so only Russian ones.
Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья мои. Вот, ну что ж,
Oh yeah, this is a picture of the Kharichev, Alexander Dmitrievich, who wrote the original article. Just in case you wanted to know, but this is our friend Maxim Kalashnikov with a club of angry patriots.
Поворачивается. Вот недавно все шумели по поводу того, как начальник управления президента, администрации президента РФ по вопросам мониторинга и анализа социальных процессов, ну, человек, конечно, Сергей Валерьянович Кириенко, Александр Дмитриевич Харичев, выступил со статьями «Цивилизация России» и «Кто мы?». Ну, там есть такой журнал «Государство», вот, для высших кругов. Я по этому поводу раздал, так сказать.
So I think you need to introduce to that journal he's talking about.
Which journal? I was doing settings.
The journal, as you said, what's the name?
Государство?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this well, this is gonna be rough as it is. Please listen to the Civil War 2.0 episode. You'll understand that he's now introducing this Kharichev and stating that with skepsis that this Kharichev has anything good to say, but not because he's friendly. He's written some books, and this is our Khamichkov. He's also written some books. They're both vatniks who consider themselves to be intellectuals and actually viewed as such by others in the whole scene. Or there. He starts, and the fact is that he starts the conversation by stating, "Oh, looky here! Finally, this academical person." And yes, the whole article, which was a fascist idiocy, it's an academical article from the Russian Academy of Sciences, and these guys started a conversation with, "Well, look, it only took them 15 years until they got to the same issues and questions that we have been solving for a long time already." Yeah, Maxim Kalashnikov's first book was in 1998, and they have been doing this Vatnik Z philosophy for all this time. And now they're like looking at this Kharichev, who, let me remind you, said all the things about patriotic education, evil West, and other inhuman things about how real freedom is to sacrifice yourself for Russia, and looking at him as a noob, thinking that, you know.
Yes, just to make you sure, they had this mindset since 80s. Still Soviet times. It's not a recent thing. It's a really old thing.
Yep. Now they're gonna analyze this nonsense.
The catastrophe of death of Soviet Union.
Yeah, they moved to the Z ideology after what they say is a horrific event, the awful tragedy, the collapse of the Soviet Union. And that's the thing that I've noticed with them. It's just the fact that they cannot admit that Soviet Union, the empire to the greatest extent, could do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So they always think it's some sort of... That's where the conspiracy starts, so that's where they always go. Because they simply cannot admit that, say, someone here in Latvia or something didn't want to be a part of Russia, or even if they know we didn't want to be part of Russia, these guys are the ones who would be cheering for like literally stomping everything out with tanks.
For them, it's unthinkable that someone can be against being occupied by Russia.
And if you don't want to be part of Russia, then you're a criminal, and we'll see that very clearly. Oh, this article is a large step forward.
Because it's academical, finally.
Нам предлагали энергетическую, либеральную империю Чубайс. Потом у нас была сувенирная.
He's now talking about other options that have been offered to Russia, the new ideas and everything. And now they're laughing about this one, because yes, to everyone else who listened to that episode, that was a horrific experience to live in such a violent state as Kharichev. These guys are laughing about that not being nearly what they want. They want to go much, much further with this.
Мы как-то пытаемся определить через какой-то замысел, через какое-то будущее. Ну вот Володя Хомяков, так сказать, Третья Москва, Третий Рим, удерживающий Качихон,
Yeah, he's now introducing Kharichev, that he's written such books as Third Moscow, Third Rome, and all sorts of things. You see where this is going.
That's also a very old idea. Maybe for those who don't know, they consider Russia, Soviet Union more precise to be Third Rome, like they are the followers of Roman Empire.
Oh, here we go, here we go.
А
Look,
Александр Дмитриевич как-то
this is the first thing that his first critique, which is why you really would want to switch the video if you're on audio, but this is an important sentence.
чудесная стратегия.
I'll pause after the most important sentence so that you can translate it correctly.
Не противоречит на самом деле, да, просто немножко разные акценты. А Александр Дмитриевич как-то очень интересно обрисовал, что только в границах Российской Федерации. Да, я.
I'll start by Maxim Kalashnikov. His first critique about how everything is evil and bad, and how this Kharichev is an amateur, not an ideologue or something, and that he's nowhere near a good enough fascist, was that, well, somehow very interestingly, this Kharichev starts his own work. He only speaks about the Russian Federation in its current borders, which obviously the cut-off borders. And now the response by Kharichev is the reason what really stunned me, and these are the very few things we're going to quote in full. But yeah, again, if you're in audio, you might just switch over to the YouTube version. I will post this still for completeness sake, and maybe someone really wants to just listen to this. It's just that I hope that the Russian audio might not be as clear. I hope that you'll forgive me. I've been at least current on that one. But let's listen to the answer. Honey, you translate this, because I will drink beer and try not to hurt myself.
Что интересно, значит, Александр Ильич при всем при том категорически избегает слова русский. Это их общая болезнь в администрации президента. Российский, россиянский, какой угодно. Вообще,
So apparently that guy they are criticizing, he as Khamiakov, the hamster said, he is clinically escaping the word Russian citizen.
No, there's a difference. There is Russia.
Not Russian citizen, but ethnical Russian.
Yeah, because there are two different words. There's like Россияnin, which is like a citizen of Russia, and Russian, ethnically Russian, basically.
So yeah, of course, Russia wants to occupy everyone, but the true citizens of Russia are ethnical Russians, of course.
Yeah, and he focuses on the fact that Kharichev, because of this fact that he spoke about Russians in his, mind you, a journal of academic law, Russia, government and state, didn't use the term in Russian, which means ethnic Russians. Mm-hmm. He instead used the term Russian citizens.
Yes. Yeah.
That makes him not patriotic enough, as we can see here, but it only gets better or worse depending from here.
Дружбонародный, как угодно, только не русский. Почему бы это? Зато вводит в своей первой еще статье «Цивилизация Россия» Россию как российскую цивилизацию, заметьте, или как государство цивилизации. Оба эти термина я лично считаю некорректными в принципе. Почему? Потому что это говорит о том, что цивилизацию нашу замыкают в границе нынешней Российской империи, Российской Федерации.
You translate this one.
Yeah, he uses later terms ethnic Russian, but he still, when he talks about Russia, he talks about the current borders of Russia, and that is really incorrect.
Yeah, because Kharichev, he wants to build this whole totalitarian regime and state in everything that is currently in Russian constitution. That is also including only those 4 districts of Ukraine, which they have just added there with sham referendums. But that is a cut-off version of Russia, because the term Россияnin, the Russian citizen, only kind of is applicable only to that area. And he's annoyed by this fact that is You can't talk about the Russian civilization because that limits the Russian civilization only in the current borders.
That's too small, apparently, because only Soviet-Russian borders are the right ones, and they were taken away by West, of course.
See, the thing is, how I view this, is that Kharichev, who wrote the original article, he knew that it's an academical journal and some people with intelligence would actually read this, and that he knew that someone in the West might read it. Might, on occasion. So, although that was a purely fascist ideology, but, in the West no one was really surprised, he did not include things which could be used as evidence or something as prime thing. He didn't say the quiet part out loud. Well, I thought he did, but apparently he kept a lot quiet. This guy is all about saying the quiet part, which is put into everyone's minds out loud, and is angry that they're just not openly being hyper Nazis. The problem is the fact that they still consider that they are the ones who are fighting against the Nazism. Please don't mistake, comrades. These guys are, according to themselves, brave anti-fascists, and it's the Ukraine who are the Nazis.
They are the bringers of light of Christ, and I'm not even joking, but we will get there.
Yeah.
Обгрызенный, да. Не включая туда даже Украину с Белоруссией.
He does not include even the whole in the article. He does not include even the whole territory of Russia and Belarus.
No, Ukraine and Belarus.
Ukraine and Belarus.
Yes,
sorry.
he says
it's appalling.
Yeah, he says it with such a horrid attitude that, like, what do you mean? You're talking only about the current borders of the Russian Federation? Like, you're not even included. Like, he's appalled and disgusted that today's territory of Ukraine and Belarus is not included in full in his descriptions of future plans because, well, obviously, that is something that is self-evident to this man. And, his next sentence is going to be not even talking about, the others. By others, he means literally us here in the Baltics, Poland, everything else. Everything that used to be on the Warsaw Pact thing. That's, and he's not saying that only because he doesn't want to provoke war with NATO. That's the only reason. Maybe. Because he probably knows someone might be watching this from NATO, but everyone knows what he's meaning there.
Говорю о всех остальных. Вот, и получается удивительная картина. На самом деле, картина такая, я бы сказал, не шибко патриотичная, потому что...
It's very unpatriotic that article does not include those territories of Soviet Union. The occupied territories.
Let me do this part for a bit here, because he concludes from this that if you speak about this whole Russian idea only in that area, which is modern Russian Federation, plus those 4 regions of Ukraine, then he concludes the image, well, comes out, and mind you, everyone on the planet thinks Russia should be like in its own proper borders, and those 4 regions, like, look, for him even that's not enough, but even if you include that in the term Russia in this new idea, then that causes a problem for him, for this guy specifically, because he sees only one way how to justify this conflict with Ukraine. This is going to be interesting now. Oh, hello, Vuchko. Nice to see you in the top chat here.
Тем самым оправдывается позиция Запада, что если российская цивилизация заключена в границах России, следовательно, имеет место сейчас борьба государства России за присоединение окрестных территорий, а вовсе не за восстановление исторического пространства единой русской цивилизации.
Okay, here we go. This was big, right? So, honey?
Yes.
I don't even know how to explain this. He says, I read this article, and then, as this guy's an academician, he says, well, logically speaking, there's a problem. Because if you presume that the Russian civilization is included only in the borders of the current Russians defined by the Constitution, well, then that means the West is right. They are justified in the fact that in that case, if you speak about Russia only in those borders, then yes, then
it turns out that Russia indeed is an aggressor and waging war against
for a conquest of territory.
Yes, it's conquering territories
instead of a glorious restoration of historical truth, of reuniting the whole thing. Because this is why if you don't buy into this imperial thing, then obviously, then it's an aggressive war. But he's now going to try to defend this because, well, to him, there is no NATO expansion. All that's bullshit, and everyone knew that already. What he said right now means basically, well, look, if you don't believe that Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians are the same people, if you actually don't believe that, basically, if you believe that Ukrainians and Belarusians are separate ethnicities, then this is an aggressive war. Yes, to them, then that war becomes unjustifiable, and he says that it's incorrect. Because to these guys, this war is justified. They truly believe it is for the greater reunification. But for that, they have to buy in and fully believe in their own imperialistic dream.
So yeah, instead of addressing that, the West is right, we were wrong about all of this, this is a problem and so on, they just say, no, we need to... We need to make other terms. We need to refer to the old state of Soviet Union. So that's why we will be kind of right in their minds, of course.
See, this is also interesting that to them, I understood why they also think why everyone attacked them, because to them, this is a great injustice that Belarus and Ukraine get to have their own separate things, because to them Russia must be glorious and huge all the time. And again, these people only use this. These people use imperialism as justification for their war, and they could have, these guys at least speak it openly, because everyone else talks about West provoked us and NATO and everything. Nah, that's all bullshit. That's literally bullshit. If you believe Ukraine and Belarus should exist, then he said himself, Vatnik, Igor's Girkin friend, on Maxim Kalashnikov's show, openly stated that if you're not talking about this from the perspective of reuniting the greater Russia, although, let me remind you, and not even talking about the others, the end goal must always be conquest of all of previous Soviet Union territories, maybe more, including everything else. If it's not, if there is no historical justice in this, if Russia is not this destined divine country who must do this, then yeah, Vatniks themselves just admitted that the West is right. Basically, I can also translate this. If you look through this, through any arguments, that are not imperialistic, religious, and dogmatic, then yeah, hello. And again, this is quotable. This is on the screen. You can timestamp this. Which is something that if I just would put this in on a quote, oh boy, you would ask me for a source straight up, well, here it is. Just amazing. And everything in this conversation just develops from here.
Это вот трактовка антирусская. На самом деле же русофобия. Да.
It's a Russophobia.
Look.
Yeah.
The definition, he says, but wait. Not only that, if you think about that, if you sort of declare that the Russian civilization, the new Russian man, is to be built only in the current borders of the Russian Federation, with all the additions, then that's anti-Russian idea. That's Russophobic. Yes, Russia, having the largest country on earth and living in their own territory, that's Russophobic. Being against the fact that Russia wants to invade me is Russophobic and therefore should be punished. I mean, look, I sort of start to feel awkward about this, because although they can't really do this, I still sort of understand how. I mean, this is directly how colonizers talk about those who are colonized. They not only do not consider these countries as a real entity, they consider them to be a breakaway, failed countries because they are, because the natives made them, the people who live there. It's straight up colonialism, and then they argue about the fact that no, it can't be a colony. We bring liberation to this, and then there will be some glorious arguments later on, honey, about why this should be true. And yeah, Vuchka, I know you can understand something here, so leave some comments, because this is pretty difficult to actually focus on this, because this is some dark and heavy stuff.
And we are not even 5 minutes in.
Идеология агрессивной русофобии направлена против всех народов нашей страны, потому что без русского народа, без русского этноса, без этого фактора нет и не может быть самой России. Поэтому именно русофобия в целом в центре внимания наших противников, а русская самобытность, традиция, культура нуждается в самом бережном отношении и защите. Их объединяющая роль – гарантия единства нашего многонационального уже Отечества.
Here he criticizes a quote from. Here he criticizes a quote from the very fascist text already that states that Russophobia is dangerous to all citizens of Russian Federation because Russians are the state-forming entity and Russian culture must be preserved so that there will be benefits to all the multinational citizens of this country.
But he mentions multinational citizens.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
This definition, which by the way already separates the country of first-class citizens and second-rank citizens, which by the way has always been the case in both Russian Empire
Yes.
and the Soviet Union at all times, he says that that's not going far enough.
Золотые слова, вот прям вот на доску повесить и желательно в кабинете господина Харичева. Потому что, извините, говорить о российской цивилизации, замыкая ее в границах РФ, это неправильно.
Here he once again states that, well, you know, you cannot. It is very wrong to put Russian civilization only in the borders of the Russian Federation.
Yes.
Although ethnic Russians, by the way, live in the only European parts mostly.
Это не объясняет ничего. Это не объясняет, что такое русский мир. Тогда русский мир, извините, что такое?
This is the best quote ever. If you do that, then the term Russian world makes no sense. What the hell does the Russian world even is? Obviously, we're talking about global conquests. I mean, this is the episode, the stream, by the way. Because if you're listening to this, better show them the stream version. Because in this episode, this guy is basically saying that obviously, yes, they want to do this. And this is interesting because when the West speaks about such things, then you know, other Westerners who are on Putin's side, they say, no, it's all lies. What do you mean it's lies? Are you saying these guys are lying? It's openly. It's yeah, like Vuchko said, they're so fucked in the head they don't get it. They don't get anything. They don't get anything because it's not a matter of rationality, it's a matter of faith, and this is how they justify the fact that they have to live there.
Just to remind you, the Russian saying, you can't understand Russia with mind, you just need to believe in it. It's not a joke. It's not just a saying, it's their philosophy, their way of life. You just need to believe in it, to believe in whatever is said to you from above, and not to question anything. Don't use your mind, citizens, товарищи.
This will go into history together with the same arguments which were made by people justifying slavery in the United States just before the Civil War. There's a whole genre of things, and I think they're very similar in the area because it's also gonna be super God-given everything, and it's just idiotic.
Если цивилизация замыкается в границах РФ, тогда что мы делаем, извините, на Украине? Получается.
The question is, well, then obviously, what the hell are we doing in Ukraine if our civilization ends within only our borders? It's not spheres of influence. It's nothing. It's just that, obviously, it's our civilization.
So the solution, claim that Russian borders does not end with modern Russia. Then it's easy peasy. You are not an aggressor.
If you believe in their imperialistic ideals, then they're not the aggressor.
Что мы воюем за присоединение к России, государству России сопредельных территорий. А это же, извините, антигосударственная какая-то логика, понимаете?
He states that if we're waging an aggressive war to join some territories, then well, then that's some sort of anti-Russian state, anti-Russian state talk. So yeah, he's see, this was the quiet part, and if you like, I already understood the previous fascist article didn't make any sense. He says it out loud because it doesn't make sense from his position as well. Because then you cannot justify what's going on and all the killings with just this.
Что такое из украинской пропаганды?
Донбасс, Новороссия,
Да.
это часть большой России, которая
Если
не
бы
в
только
91 году возникла, и не в 1918 она возникла.
Извините, Киев забрали у Речи Посполитой, точнее выкупили за деньги, которые нам никто не вернул.
Now they're talking that the Commonwealth bought Kiev and that all of this would be Russia if not for two horrific mistakes of 1991 and 1918. Yeah, all that stuff. And now they're saying that actually Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth bought Kiev from them and didn't pay the money. The question is that Kiev is older than Moscow, and they had the Kiev and Rus thing. Belarusians are also way older than all this stuff going on. he's now literally pulling out arguments from his ass without any evidence as usual. It's just that in here, while doing this, while being offended that the fascist article is not fascist enough, he just says all the things openly. So if you know this already, well then, you know, enjoy our conversation here. Maybe you get an explanation or something. But to all of you who've been sent here to, if you support Russia, hey, I mean, unlike some Western guys who think that this is about some sort of values and such, no, the values are pure imperialism.
Еще по андрусовскому перемирию
Стоп.
17 веке.
Андрусовское перемирие, мы там должны были остаться временно.
Время 20 лет.
They are now talking about the legal issues of the 17th century stuff. They also consider the fact that they have a right to the Baltic states because they apparently got them fair and square in the peace deal of 16th century from Sweden.
Давайте исходить из того, что значит, цивилизация наша никакая не российская, а именно русская. Это следует еще из трудов Николая Ильича Данилевского.
So basically, he now states that how to fix all this. He says that our civilization is not Russian as Russian citizens, but Russian as ethnic Russian civilization. And then he quotes historian Danilevich. Obviously, he's also, you know, a fascist. Yeah, he then says, well, over there, he spoke about the Slavic civilization. To which, by the way, I would agree, because Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and even in a way, some parts of Yugoslavia would be the Slavic civilization. But that's only if you exclude Czechia and Poland, because they're also Slavic peoples. And Poland definitely don't want to be a part of that part. I would actually argue that, no. What he's trying to do is trying to usurp terminology. Because if you think about it seriously, then the true Slavic civilization actually would be basically Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Except, you know, because most nobles were from Belarus, they held most of Ukraine. It had the most Slavic thing, actually Slavic as a group of ethnicities. Current Russia is Russian ethnicity civilization, but in a very fascist sauce.
От славянской цивилизации уже мало что осталось, там отгрызли все понемножку, немножко запад, немножко юг, но...
Pause it. The old Russian civilization was... It had chunks bitten off by west, by east,
by the south,
yes,
too.
but by the south. So everyone is at blame here. Everyone is taking territories away from the poor Russian Empire.
Yeah, because the only Slavic civilization that is allowed to exist, obviously, is led from Moscow, straight up. Mm-hmm. Let's not talk about how they massacred Novgorod too and all this mess. And Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth would, disagree with this fact. Again, most of the nobles there were Russian. It's a complex story over there. I'll get to that one day. So now he obviously declares that Russian civilization today is the prime continuation of the Slavic civilization, of pure Pan-Slavism. They are deserving to rule over this. And yeah, by other nations, you know what? They still include everything from Poland and Czechia. Well, they have a problem with us here in the Baltics because none of us are Slavic. But not that it matters to these guys. Not that we were here like long before they were here anyways. But we're a bit of a thorn in the side over there. Which is why, you know, if they invade us, oh, we're getting genocided. They already tried to completely culturally assimilate and eliminate us last time. If they come in next time, yeah, we're gonna get full-on brutal murder treatment.
Она сейчас политическая, но это не отменяет ее русского характера, потому что русские, во-первых, в той же России составляет 80%, во-вторых, доминирование культурное и духовное именно русское в этой цивилизации.
He now states that the fact that right now they have a polyethnic civilization, polyethnic country doesn't preclude the spirit of the civilization being true Russian, because then he claims 80% of people living in Russia today are Russians. Well, that's a lie, though. It's because they
have destroyed many ethnicities in war, though.
They also have just destroyed them constantly, and
as well, yes.
The fact that they claim. They claim the fact that they are all ethnic Russians is the same idea as in the Soviet era. You know, you write Soviet in there or something. It's just.
Которая в общем-то, пришлась по нраву всем другим народам, которые...
And here he says, well, and this form, this was, well, obviously everyone else who lives here must be very happy about this.
This is the moment when I drink your beer.
I know, honey.
Входили в Россию, потому что иначе бы одной силой оружия 100 с лишним народов не удержишь. Значит,
Oh.
His argument is, well, obviously they must like it here, because otherwise, by sheer force of arms, you cannot hold all this territory together. Yeah, but you know how you can? By oppression, by economical oppression, extraction of resources, extermination of local culture and language.
And Cheka.
Yeah, all this stuff. All this mess, but this is one of those very twisted things where obviously, you beat your wife hard enough so that she likes you.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. It's the same situation where you blame the victim. If a victim of domestic abuse stays with the abuser, so they must like it here. If they still stayed here, we're not trying to fight back and so on.
And the fact is that, well, they must like it here is kind of a stupid thing. Seeing, they know we don't like them, but that's why they think we're Nazis, because only Nazis and we're kind of like it here. However, that is a nice little, even if he speaks about the current peoples living inside of Russia, there is a thing called Chechnya. They have tried to get away twice. There were wars. They did keep it together with force of arms. I mean, it's just that outright wrong. And
что-то им в этом нравилось. Что-то было созвучно с их пониманием добра и зла. Наверное, так.
They must enjoy something. They really enjoyed this. Something really clicked with their understanding of.
I like that he can't name exactly what, because of course he can't. But he's quite sure that we liked something about being occupied.
Так, вот, поэтому я бы за такие слова, как российская цивилизация, я бы просто сомневался, да, в профессиональной компетентности этих лиц. Они должны быть, мне кажется, напрочь убраны, как противоречащие установкам, данным Владимиром Владимировичем Путиным. Скажем так. Хорошо.
So yeah, basically he states that the talking only about Russia, Russian civilization, the borders of current Russian Federation, that is anti-government, anti-state, and just
against
wrong.
Putin as well. But of course.
Ну, вторая статья меня больше интересует, которая вышла в том самом журнале «Государство».
And then he's going to talk about the issues facing Russia, which I'll comment. Honey, it's 4. Actually, could you go and bring us one more beer while I finish this? We should have done this before. This is going to be the boring part.
You know what? That is fine by me.
I told you this is fucked beyond all recognition.
I will take some for myself as well.
Yeah, you can bring.
Because you were not joking.
I wasn't joking.
You need alcohol when you listen to this.
This part I can analyze because I have actually notes for this one. When you'll come back, you'll read the poems there. The store is like 5 minutes away, so that's okay. Yeah, I told you, and then people don't believe in this case. Actually, I will stop the episode, the audio version right now. Yeah, this is Daniel Kharichev. Please enjoy the full episode later on. This is just gonna give you a nice little test for the longer stream, but on its own, it's already horrific enough to be published as in separate episodes. So if you're listening to this on audio, please do check out the stream for the full version. And well, it's gonna be on YouTube as the full episode. And secondly, consider supporting the show on Patreon, Fourth Wall, or other places where we're dealing with this stuff, and it's nowhere near as nice and easy. Beer, we're drinking local Latgale brewery. It's called Brewers. It's from Rēzekne. But yeah, that was a response to the question. I will now pause Audacity and put that to export. And the next episode is going to be more analytical about news. It's just that without the original, I wouldn't be able to publish this in audio format. And transcribing all this will just be horrible. Oh, but of course, happiness is mandatory. But that's just bye to you guys, because I don't want to publish an hour-long thing over there. It's 40 minutes already for you, And please check out the rest if you're interested. This was painful and horrific. Now let me just click the export audio, and then we're gonna be good. I will just click a letter here. The rest of his arguments, they are about the whole civil war issue, and he talks about problems and the actual situation in Russia. This is gonna be interesting, because here they actually start to agree somewhat with this guy, especially when it comes to the civil war part, which is why this is important.
Кто мы? Вот они действительно тоже стоит поговорить, потому что там приводится 5 конкретных угроз России.
Yeah, he now basically talks about the article, how it has like 5 separate things.
Итак, первый – это расколы и конфликты на почве социальных, экономических, национально-культурных или политических противоречий.
Yeah, this is the point 1. Again, I highly recommend you do check out the episode of Civil War 2.0 before you listen to this. First one was about the mistrust towards the government because of socio-economic issues and political ones, of misrepresentation and things like that.
Предлагается лечить чем? Формированием солидарного сплоченного социума. Мы против, да нет, мы за двумя руками.
And the offer was, and he says that the offer was to build a unified socium. But again, only within this whole territory. I will open up my script and set up another thing now, because I understood that with this beer and with this part where I'm gonna have to focus, yeah, I think I'm gonna be putting another little smaller window down there, yeah, because sitting here without Evita, I need something in the background for everything to work perfectly. But yeah, we're going to talk about economic analysis and everything, because I don't know, they just feel justified about the situation. And now, if you remember, he built the idea, the original article, about how Russia must become the state where people want to sacrifice themselves for the country, where even, caring about your own well-being, even that's considered not patriotic enough. That's something that the evil West does. And then we're going to start complaining about how far this whole mess is from what he actually wants to achieve. Pretty awful, really. And I will then put this above here and add the source if I can. Wait, what? Game capture wants to capture Audacity? Nope. Please capture that one. I'll just put this in this side over here. Also, because I don't wanna get into some issues. And some people might find this more interesting, because then you see I'm still going on here. Oh, and because I've gotten copyright strikes from Vatniks already, and this is enough to make it like altered content. Yeah, of course they would do this.
Конечно, да. Вот только, знаете, без таких вещей, как, соборность, есть такая ценность, соборность. Соборность – это единство народа вокруг общей цели, общей исторической судьбы. То есть вот мы все заодно, или у всех будет, или у всех не будет.
He talks about Russian value of soborность, or togetherness, but in a sense that everyone's ready and willing to jointly do things for this Russian Empire.
Справедливость всегда была одной из базовых ценностей русской цивилизации.
Yeah, he says that he talks about how justice was always one of the main values of the Russian Federation. Also, never has been, but okay. How everyone should receive benefits according to their merits. Oh, man. He's talking about the fact how Russian civilization has always been about social justice and true equality, where everyone gets what they deserve. He's now talking about, yes, but the current powers already, they are betraying this idea of glorious imperialism, because if you look at this, then what they're doing currently doesn't work with this whole mess and idea of this glorious empire.
Средний класс, к которому относились и мы, и Володя Ханетов, и Калашников, и Калашников.
He likes to talk about himself in the third person, by the way, Maxim Kalashnikov.
Вот. Соответственно, в сырьевой экономике есть только узенькая верхушка, купающаяся в роскоши, вызывающая, так сказать.
Oh, and he states that the whole fact that they're an oil, the petrol state basically eliminates the middle class, and he himself sees as this whole, as this middle class. Yeah, he hates the idea that Russia is exporting oil because they should industrialize instead. Oh, and okay, so he's now stating that this whole unity must be total because currently less than 1% of Russian clerks have anyone in their families fighting in the front lines, and that it is a shame because right now the country is at war, so everyone should be united, but the ruling class isn't. I love how they're talking about the social justice and everything. And he states that a prime threat to Russian existence is the fact that currently there is this fighting. There's already a two-class society where one side is fighting and doing all the work and is miserable and poor, and then there's the ultra-rich elites. Except, and what needs to be done is a complete change of all system. Everyone needs to be a massive fanatic of the war and restore this glorious Russian Empire, pan-Slavic one or whatever, how you want to call it, because only then, well, not like they're going to be happy because it's bad to even think about your prosperity, but still. Now they're going to talk about the patriotic education of society. Okay, I need to alt tab for this one and pause this because this is going to be... Okay, so he argued that the law about patriotic education, the one that has patriotic classes in schools, well, that is unbelievable and viable and sort of stupid, but not because that would be wrong to, just do ultranationalist classes at school. It's because our clerks, well, they only like profiting by themselves, and then it's going to be all talk. We need to do some real patriotism so that everyone actually wants to go and die in a war. I mean, this is somehow even worse than just the school stuff, to be honest. I mean, ugh. And none of this is treated as something like, again, the fascism isn't fascism enough, therefore bad.
Из которых у огромной части собственности семьи за рубежом, которых интересы там, и которые более всего озабочены, как ударят те же экономические санкции, помимо личных.
Yeah, the very fact that they have elites with properties abroad is evil.
Той самой, как он там бишь называлось, сырьевой сверхдержавы?
Нет,
энергетической сверхдержавы. На большего они просто не готовы. Значит,
apparently, the current Russian government is just a kleptocracy who are not ready to do anything more than just abuse natural resources and be this, as they say, an energy superpower, but they're not ready for more. And this comes from a position that they totally should. They should be waging war against, all of Europe and everyone, nuking Americans. He notes that currently it is impossible to declare our society to force patriotism. But what they call patriotism, everyone else understands as fascism, but And he's also stating that this is silly because these guys are not using the correct Russian model of industrialization. You know, with the one thing that Kalashnikov forgets about this industrialization is the fact that all of it was built in stone zero by slave labor. And they're using Russian words to describe things, so obviously not using Russian words to describe things, everything's anglicized. How can we even talk about glorious empire building? And this question about the internal struggles is going to be very difficult here. Oh. Okay, this is important. This is an important part because he says obviously this question about patriotism and the goals must be explained, since otherwise these armed people will come home, and then what they're gonna ask? Well, what did we fight for? So that these assholes could just gain their like keep their wallets and everything. Well, the answer is obviously yes, but they don't want to admit that. They don't want to admit that it's the truth. So they see that if the state wants to be an actual mega empire, then they sort of need another thing, because the current one is like, what is this stupid? There's going to be a massive crisis, as they say, at the end of this, no matter the outcome of the war, because the loss of meaning is going to be horrible. And the only way how they can avoid unfortunate questions and how they can keep this imperialist colonialist philosophy is if they get their asses kicked. That is the only way how they will not invent something else, some stupid new argument about how only they have the rights to do their empire. But again, more fascism is a solution for this. Just glorious. He states that, of course, he doesn't doubt at all the fact that the military operation was necessary, but the fact that it's been done so asinine, that everything's wrong. There is no new patriotism. And he's now stating, well, if this is going to go like this, if you don't do some patriotic explanations, then it's going to end just like in 1918, and you know how that ended. 10 million of us were killed and died. And the true part is that, yeah, that's totally true. But the alternative is having a hyper-imperialistic Russian empire, which is a colonial state, which really wants to oppress everyone living around it, with zero ideas of peace and coexistence. It's like, oh no, we will not be able to keep our fascism. The thing is that currently they're talking about Zelensky and Ukraine is the fact that, yes, of course they are evil Nazis. Obviously, after listening to this, to what other conclusion you can come that it's Zelensky who is the Nazi? But he says, well, at least he has a plan. And they're now stating that the current Russian Federation, their idea should be glorious, massive, mega empire, but at this point they don't have it. And at least the Ukrainian Nazis have a plan. So he's now criticizing Putin for the fact that, but where is your plan? What's going on there? I mean, you have to be mentally ill if you're listening to this and thinking that the Ukraine, like after everything they've been telling themselves and how they've been talking, I don't even know how they come to the conclusion that how they're not the Nazis. What they're doing is prime ultranationalism, prime Nazi stuff, colonialism even. Like, oh wait. So the main idea is that they at least tried to move to orthodoxy because they are the last Orthodox state. Of course, Ukraine doesn't count, Belarus doesn't count, Bulgaria doesn't count. since the Patriarchate of Constantinople fell, literally, if we lose, then the Antichrist will come, because we're the last true Christian country on earth. Yeah. They have traditional values. But you, dear Americans and Western Europeans who like to support Putin, and will also have traditional values. You're not it. You are not the traditional values. Why? Because you are not Russian Orthodox, obviously.
По-моему, объявлено нынче иноагент он был действительно.
Это были именно внешние сношения. Господин Козырь откровенничался как-то и рассказал, что в свое время...
And they're now being shocked by the fact that an ex-minister of economy didn't admitted openly that he didn't believe anything of the bullshit that he said himself. And now they're focusing on the fact that in Russia, as just like in the West, the national idea, the goal is money, profit, doing things. But this includes like doing things for the people and paying them decent salaries. That's good, but making profits, actually being a wealthy country, so that the population living peaceful, being a wealthy country where people live well. That's not good. Empire is good. And they obviously are saying that the young people in Russia, they don't want to be our imperialists because they see how they're being lied to. No one's going to be an imperialist if they're being lied to constantly. And that's a massive problem. Because let me remind you, imperialism is clearly something that they need their new people to be massive imperialists. Otherwise, this whole insanity with their empire project will just not work. And the fact that and they're now stating that the same issue happened when the Soviet Union also tried to alienate the youth. And they're now stating that, well, they have forgotten that maybe times are moving on, and that the fact that in the Soviet era, although it had issues, the idiocy was there. What they don't get, basically, is that any Russia that is an empire in its current borders will be just as idiotic, just as horrible, just as bad as it's now, and it always has been. You can't. It's a colonial empire. It doesn't work like a nation state. It isn't one. It will never adapt. They want to bring 19th century imperialism to the 21st century, and are very, very shocked that the young people don't want to do that. They're not, they're now stating that the Soviets also were actually about all the same, because they were trying to build a country of total, complete equality. Again, the very idea that people want to build something for themselves and not just for the country, that's bad. And I'll tell you why. Because if you build something for yourself, then you have to take responsibility for your actions. The fact is, it sounds very stupid, but this is the prime idea of the fact that other peoples, even the Soviet Union, Korolev was Ukrainian. Latvia built the high technology stuff, like we had VEF and everything. Everyone else built the Soviet Union for them, and they just reap the benefits. And this is why, we need a country where everyone is happy to work for the country. Where, where only Russian culture is allowed, obviously. Hi, Joe, so slow. Literally, if you're just here right now, do start from the beginning. I'm not even kidding. Right now, currently, you'll catch up. You'll catch up. Please do check this out from the beginning. It is important. The first 40 minutes are the part which is just so stunning that Evita, yes, my wife, went to bring some booze for me and her because it is just awful. Now, and he's now commenting on the Russia needs to... He's now stating that, yeah, the whole words about, the idea that that Russia needs a lot of kids so that they could gloriously die in combat for the glory of the motherland. That is absolutely true. However, they are now criticizing the current reality where everyone's poor and life's shit. The problem is that they also think that their empire will be rich when they conquer everyone because, well, why? Because they just want to exploit those people. Oh, yeah. The fact that, oh yeah, they're now stating that you can't build this country without giving, you can't build a country that's just and where people like their country if the state doesn't provide for you. Not like the idea that people might want to not get handouts from the state. That's abnormal. This is the whole idea, in the sense that there's always been the sense that always it's not that people should be allowed to make their own money. It's the fact that the state should always provide for them. But again, he forgets where did the money come from. They want to redistribute everything, and then obviously Russians want to dominate this stuff because they want to be in a ruling class or in the system where wealth gets redistributed and where they do the least effort. The goal of economy should be the well-being of everyone. The problem is that in a system where, and if you want to do something on your own, that's bad. See, the difference is that Western left-leaning people don't really understand this imperial stuff. They say it was state capitalism, not real socialism. The problem here was it was socialism for some, but provided by everyone else. And secondly, what those who are fans and tankies of the Soviet Union itself, what they don't get is that it wasn't for the benefit of everyone. It was for the benefit of those nomenclature people. Yeah, like the ruling class, they truly did live in socialism. But the problem is that how will they eliminate and build their economy also is nowhere stated. See, their ideals, even if they win, are incompatible with the modern age and real life. But they also agree that this is going to end up horribly for Russia either way. They're now stating that no one wants to fight for no one will fight for the real country. Like the Russia that they want to build is where everything is best for everyone. Yeah, but the question is, who's going to pay for all this mess? So now they're stating that the Russian government currently is trying to build this empire that they would absolutely support, but they're only doing it via brainwashing and propaganda because, they don't do real any actions. And that is true. Because Putin himself at this point, yeah, he cares about this empire building stuff, but everyone else, just like they said, they are utterly corrupt and thieving. And that's not going to change either. They want to build a complete society. He finally agrees. A total loss towards the government and the system in general. That is true. He now quotes the article that I mentioned on the fact that Russia needs meritocracy. And he now says the same thing I did. Yeah, that's a good idea. But how will you do this if all of the system is utterly corrupt and there is nothing incorrupt in the system? The whole modern Russian government is based on sheer corruption and nothing else. These are the Vatniks. And they want people to die for this Russia that they want to build, which is apparently the true Russia. And they refuse to admit that they will never achieve this and that Russia is the way it is. Because that's the only way how this imperialistic regime can be. the very fact that like everyone, like that's the whole idea. We all know that Russia is a corrupt system, but to them, that's not the real Russia. Everyone should just believe in good life in Russia. Like I said, this is the Russia you can only believe in, and if you don't, then you're the Antichrist. I mean, and then at the same time, they wonder why people don't want to be a part of Russia, because obviously, the fact that there is all this corruption that they admit themselves, it doesn't figure into their plans one bit. The fact that people might not want to be a part of Russia just because of all this nonsense. I don't even know. It's beyond stupid.
Нет, ну по мелочам он судит, конечно, по закону, но именно по мелочам.
А по крупному, как прикажет, такой приговор и нанесет. Вот, дело наших патриотов.
I think they really justified this whole idea. I'm just trying to think this. They sort of, when they say that everyone's Nazi and fighting and Antichrist and everything, they are thinking that people, I think they justify this because they believe that people are fighting against their own benefit, against this beautiful Russia that's definitely gonna come any day now, trust me guys. Not against the Russia that exists now and has ever existed and that everyone else knows Russia about. I mean, what do you mean? Trust us, it's gonna be better for everyone, we promise. We can totally do it. Yes, absolutely. Not like this has never happened. It's like, you must die for the current government to build the next beautiful one by conquering Ukraine, because that'll somehow make things better and is And then again, now he's making a historical example about the goodness of the heart of Tsar Ivan the Terrible. Out of all Tsars, he picked Ivan the Terrible. Because the Tsar is always good. I mean, it's a religion. This Russian Empire is a divine entity and it cannot be bad. It cannot be harmful. It must be good. If it's bad now, then that's not the real Russia. And the biggest success of all this propaganda and all this fascism is the idea that this country has ever existed or can exist. That they somehow deserve an empire.
Тем не менее, нам Александр Kharichev констатировал, поставил диагноз болезни.
Ivan Grozny took care of the people. Yes, yes. And thinking otherwise is high treason, comrades. Obviously. And they're now stating that they need to change all the system. Everything needs to be changed from the ground up. Yeah, yes, that's exactly what they do, and they have been doing this all the time. By the way, if you're here and just starting now, please start from the beginning. The first 40 minutes with the most important argument, which really shocked me, is going to be as an audio episode, but the early parts are really important. You can catch up later. Like. Of course, he's using some sort of I'm not even going to translate the glorious Russian propaganda stories published once in Pravda as truth, which he uses. Again, what they say is, look, the wrong people are in power, the right people will be in power. Russians are intimately good and everything. Yeah, this is why they also don't believe in Bucha. Their argument why that couldn't have happened is because, well, obviously, I don't believe our guys would be capable to do this. The fact that there has been documented cases of marauding, that even people in the government are corrupt, and everything is corrupt, that is obvious. But the Russian soldier cannot be evil. Otherwise, the idea of the very fact, as he said at the beginning, if this idea that they're positioning that they deserve this empire, that that's the ultimate good, is wrong, and is not based in objective reality, then everything is wrong that they believe in, and we can't have that. No, really, first 40 minutes, well, if you haven't seen them, go check them out, then you can catch up to this later. Because, oh man. If he went to get boost, like I said.
От него зависело, усидит он на своем месте или не усидит. К сожалению, во многом эта система сохранилась до сих пор. Да какие-то проблески были это местное самоуправление. Земство пытался давить Александр II, но его быстро убили.
He's now stating that oh, by the way, their biggest issue is with Peter the Great, which they don't like, because he made everything bureaucratic and more Western instead of this земство and other Russian traditional things.
Это величайший, значит, как бы сказать, величайшая связь между властью и обществом. Когда, да, в 612 году, в 1612
He says the greatest extent between the state and the country was in 1612, when there was no state and no country, and where the peasants rose up and restored the Russia to its rightful dynasty. The peasants wanted to eat, though, but that's okay. We don't talk about that. And I for one believe then you know, if at that point the guy who was on the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth side would be placed in power, I think modern Russia would be a better place.
Давайте вспомним недавнее прошлое. Что делал глава Минобразования господин Фурсенко? Он заявил четкую концепцию, что наша цель выращивать цивилизованного потребителя. Цель образования. То есть выращивать на протяжении ряда лет.
They also, by the way, always, I understood why they don't like the idea of consumerism, because patērētājs in Latvia and also, but in other countries, upotrebļитель, it has a negative connotation because that's seen as the person who does not no production but only consumes. So they don't understand the fact that everyone can be a consumer and a producer at the same time. Because no one has explained this stuff to them. New values and everything, of course. Nice little building of the new Russian man, without which nothing shall work. The problem is, why do you want to... If you want to basically... Oh. Yeah, you can't debate them. I agree with you, Volvichko, you can't debate them. Because for one, they refuse to believe in rational arguments, because you come from the Antichrist. The same thing is that logics don't work, and this isn't for Russians. This is for everyone who lives in other countries. In other countries, like those people who take Russian money in other places and do things for them while living abroad. It's for these people. It's for them. This is what you defend. Not even Russians living abroad, because we have people like this guy from Spain. What was this name? I forgot it. He has been on the show too a couple of times. There is this guy who lives in Spain, yet he defends this glorious country. A true believer. And this is by the way another reason is how you can easily spot Russian money in media is when everything is bad. This is why like they focus only on the bad things. In Latvia, I did my Latvian stream about I thought it would be funny about like a very kind of weird Latvian politics channel, which I thought we were just, you know, stupid people. But no, they didn't mention the largest protest in Latvian history, simply because that would make things look a bit better. Everything is bad to them, even when it makes no sense. They speak nothing about... They never criticize Russia, and they only speak about how everything is horrible. Because of purely imaginary reasons. And because it doesn't seem to be so bad and some idea might be actually good. Well, then you have been brainwashed to think that something might be good outside of Russia, because that's a conspiracy theory in the global elites. He's now disgusted by Western media and the fact that, you know, there were series and there was not enough patriotic education. Yeah, you know, the fact that there was like fun on television is wrong and bad and horrible. And he was like, yeah, you can do... It's like they allowed people to do all sorts of wicked things, but didn't focus on Russia. And that's the whole thing, the fact that they are always the morality police. Their ideals are the right ones. You must want to live under this glorious imperialism and nothing else. And when people don't want to live in such a place, then it's the people who are bad. All of this, as me and David have discussed a lot of times already, comes from the complete inability in this mindset, now Russian, previously Soviet, but in the empires as well, to admit that you're wrong about something. The fact that you might be mistaken, because to these people, they have a respect for authorities, just like in their work, right? If you do something bad, then you're afraid that your boss is going to kill you, so you shrug everything under the rug just to look pretty. Because there are specific terms, быть и казаться, two important ones. To be something or to look like something, and the other one is super important. And the situation here is that they feel like they will not be seen as true experts, and no one will respect them if they admit even once that they're wrong. And then you're thinking how everything's going on there. And there's a lot of talented people from our region, a lot of them. This is why Eastern European migrants form a large amount of the Nobel prizes that say United States and the West has acquired. But they sort of think that they want to have the good quality of life that the other countries have, but without the rights. What they refuse to admit is that you can't really build an economical system that works without giving them these rights.
Ну да, он просто ныне покойный, конечно, лесен и так поступает. Но на самом деле, если у вас нет идеологии, есть только скрытая идеология денег, то есть золотого тельца,
it's like, if you want to, they're always saying this, if you don't have a proper ideology, if your only ideology is money, and money is basically, if you want to, and the ideology of money is where people themselves, not the state, want to do something. This is like the anti-neoliberalism, not in the social democracy sense, but the fact that everything must be nationalized. Because obviously it is unfair that it's unfair that you have been drinking and doing all this stuff all the time and not working hard, but your neighbor has a better cow than yours.
В свое время, в 95-м году, нас шокировал шоу «За стеклом». Помните, когда там посетили этих самых молодых...
This is why actually I don't like... This is what I don't like when people talk about, when people on the left use the word socialism willy-nilly. I like the term social democracy. That's different, but see, I've been growing up here, and to me, socialism is associated only with the nonsense that they want to build. With absolute moral police and with the utter redistribution. And I like how some modern day leftist people, like hardcore leftist people on YouTube, somehow separate private property from individual property. Say that, relax, no one's taking your house away, and no one's taking that stuff away. Well, no, it is, because everyone must be like equal completely, to the point where... Again, they have this imperial mentality where the state must be doing everything all the time for everyone. Because people are not allowed... I think it's interesting, because if you think about it, they want to build a society where the state will give everything to people all the time and will take care of everything, starting from culture to education to factories to innovations. Everything will be just the state and nothing else. However, that state is supposed to attract better minds and create massive intellectualism and huge amounts of innovations, where everyone does this. It's not that in their system. It's not that you're. But they still have the problems, because sounds silly. But what do you do, for example, with musicians? intellectual property, OnlyFans, all this stuff. To them, all these ideas that don't fit their world set is automatically degeneracy and bad. Well, a real Russian man won't want to watch OnlyFans. A real man in our society, he will not do this because he's going to be better. He will have fun from, I don't know, inventing new plans for airplanes. Yes, of course. And there is no other way. This is what happens when you adapt reality to your politics, because you cannot accept the fact that your political idea, is not compatible with reality. And again, I like social democracy, I like welfare, I like all this stuff, but it really annoys me when in the West they somehow consider that to be socialism.
Ну давай, собственно говоря, думаю, что умным людям достаточно. Вот, поблагодарим Александра Дмитриевича, что хотя бы вопрос ты поставил, что было немыслимо еще в 2005 году.
Господи, это было немыслимо еще 5-6 лет назад.
Я шучу, конечно. Вот. Ну и хочу к нашей второй теме, которая на самом деле тесно связана с делом. Мы же, так сказать, операцию на Украине начали ради воссоединения нашего народа. Нам же сказали, что там братский народ. Не просто братский народ, один стане народ. Это наше с тобой.
Oh yeah, thanks Vuchko for translating these things.
Русский это не только великороссы, кто жертва РФ, что русские это совокупность.
Yeah, he's now trying to excuse this ultra ethnic nationalism with the fact that when we say ethnic Russians, we don't mean just Russians. We also mean everyone who wants to be a Russian. If you say I love Russia and not a Russian, then you will also be Russian under this new system. This is how you end up with all this mess. Which is interesting because, in a way, his statement also has another conclusion. Only Russians want to live in Russia, and that is sort of true because only Russians would want to live in Russia. I have to agree to that part, definitely. Oh. And now it's the bizarro part, because they genuinely believe this. They're now going to criticize the fact that that Russia is hitting civilian industry. Because again, every time Russia hits civilians, it's always a false flag for them, because then the Russian soldier can never be wrong. But right now, when the Russian government posts on its own site, when the Russian government posts on the site the fact that they are hitting these things, these guys are actually yelling, what are you doing? They will not love us if we do this. We shouldn't be like the evil Nazi Ukrainians who always bomb our own. Yeah, Bucha was a false flag. They do not believe me when I tell them that I was there personally. Nothing will change because it's a matter of faith. Facts won't like them. But when they are faced with something unavoidable, it's again a horrible mistake. What are they doing? They will not like us. They will not believe in glorious Russia if we continue doing this. Because he receives letters from Ukraine of his supporters, and they write that because of this nonsense, they don't have things. So, for some reason, they truly believe that they're fighting only against this Nazi regime there. This is a nice little cultural situation, which is just... The fact that... Another little thing is that they believe that everyone would be horrible in Russia, like everything would be horrible in Ukraine, again because of the language issues. The fact that all these people live much better lives, and the fact that, it's the whole Ukraine, even like the most pro-Russian regions are the ones that have suffered the most, that they will never restore this. Yeah. It's like they're getting letters from those who still support Russia that everything is shit because they got bombed and everything is horrible because of the war. And yet they support the war. They support this invasion because the fact that they... And this, by the way, is how entrenched this is. The fact that they had food and warmth and everything was okay for them, that life was well in Ukraine, but they had to learn Ukrainian, is considered worse. And there are people who still support this war, despite the fact that because of Russian bombings, they're now living like shit and their life is hell. It doesn't matter. Because to these very imperial Russians, I guess that's really, this is what propaganda does. evil Kiev regime. They believe that evil Kiev regime should be bombed, not civilians. The problem is that it's... Like, if we were waging this war, then of course we wouldn't be bombing civilians. Well then, what they forget is that if Russia won't do war crimes and do horrible imperialistic stuff, then Russia won't exist. Which they refuse to believe in, because there must be something, you know, that they liked, otherwise they would have revolted, despite all the revolts that happened. Yeah. Another little meme.
Что такое красные линии? Что должно быть, случиться, чтобы мы наконец решили, что красные линии все перешли, и можно ударить по банковой, да?
He's now talking about Russia's red lines, and there is this paradox of theirs. He's now saying, okay, they're always talking about the red lines, but when will there be an actual red line? When it will be enough? So when we'll strike like the Moscow, like the central square of Kiev or something. What they don't want to admit is that Kiev is actually very well protected by Patriot missiles, and if Russia tries to hit Kiev with those things, well, then they will. If they will try to hit the Ukrainian government, they will fail, and that's an open failure. And while that hasn't happened, there is at least this illusion that they're doing better than they should be. Obviously, they're claiming a strong repressive machine in Ukraine and everything. But they're now yelling at they're now yelling. This is why I just want to. This is why I wouldn't like. At least one thing I can say about Maxim Kalashnikov, why I find him just cringeworthy and weird, because he is actually against war crimes, because he truly believes in this very weird idea, because he can't do otherwise. Otherwise, he's gonna have to admit that, you know, what if empire cannot work in this century? What if imperialism is just, you know, not a good thing? We can't have that one. Oh yeah. He's now yelling at the West because obviously a person who went for a walk to walk his dog and Ukrainian drones killed them. But then they claim the Russians did it, despite all the proof that we have that yes, Russians do kill civilians. Facts are not gonna help here.
Разрушая жилищный фонд, систему отопления и энергоснабжения в расчете на то, что немцы свергнут Гитлера. Что не произошло? Не произошло, потому что это мощнейшая репрессивная машина. А во-вторых,
I really wonder.
Проникались ненавистью к англичанам и американцам. Они устраивали самосуды над сбитыми летчиками. Ну, ракеты, не дроны, а бомбардировщики. Они убивали людей.
Wait, someone's actually calling.
Они сражались до последнего, они продолжали работать.
See, because the very idea that Russia might not be able to do something is also an anathema to them, because Russia must be strongest and most powerful and will be as soon as... The fact that Russia just isn't that awesome and amazing is an anathema, and that it's just that everyone else is guilty about whatever Russia is doing horribly. The excuses will continue because that's easier than to actually, you know, admit that maybe this whole idea of like imperialism is sort of wrong and stupid. And the thing is, like I say, it's a religious thing. They believe it as a matter of faith because of the orthodoxy and because of how that's structured over there. This is why I'm making those episodes of Russia's religious experience, because this is what's been done for a long while already. Oh, instead of first of all is about their the fact that there must be a conspiracy theory why we're not destroying all this stuff. The fact that patriots actually defend things and work. That's again impossible.
сопротивления, способность сопротивления противника. Лучше всего.
They're now talking about breaking the will of destroying the higher-ups of the enemy. Why that hasn't been done? Oh no.
И на систему вообще управления институциональную тоже. Но этого не
Система
делается.
связи. Не работает телевидение. Телевышки стоят. Все нормально.
И интернет уже.
Интернет уже работает. Вот почему надо бить. Это гораздо более эффективно.
I really feel bad that, you know,
Я не военный эксперт.
in a weird sense, these guys are gonna have a very rude awakening when this whole mess ends. Just a horrible one.
С моей точки зрения, все-таки подход ударить по это единственная правильная вещь. И удивительно, что на 4-м году войны до этого еще никто не додумался.
It's surprising that on the 4th year of the war, no one up there has had any ideas to try to kill Zelensky and strike the higher-ups. The fact that there have been many assassination attempts, that's just not mentioned on their news. And this is the idea. Like, this whole plan works in the fact that their country cannot do anything wrong whatsoever. Like, the state can make mistakes and everything, but the fact that they can't do something because, you know, they physically can't is wrong for them. However, this also leads to a civil war because they will, like, just like Hitler, they will believe that they were betrayed. There was never real defeat in the First World War. There was never a defeat on the front lines. All this mess. And to be honest, why I'm thinking that actually, in global scale, we have to figure out what to do with the nukes. But a civil war in Russia is better because otherwise we're going to get some sort of fascist dictator back up there. You have to do a proper denazification there for anything to change, but that will never happen. Also, a lot of actual Nazis over there they're afraid that they will make us feel sorry. And again, admitting a mistake, admitting that something was done horribly, admitting that there was something bad that Russia has ever done, anything. This is why they also say Russia has never attacked anyone. They're just bad. Oh, he's now stating that they need to win. They need. They're now saying that it's the mentality of the war that happens, and that you need a certain worldview to win wars. They're now stating that fighting like this we will never win, and by win he means achieving this whole mega unity, because we have no clear aims of the war or goals or anything of that sort. How do we expect to win in this case? The problem is you won't. He's now stating that Russian civilization is much wider than it's now, and now he's going to give his access to the modern Russia. He's now defining Russian civilization as the central part of. The worst part is that they somehow think that Putin needs to win this war, and that he, the same person who's been ruling for 25 years, will grow up and use this war somehow by putting in the elites the soldiers, which he won't, and that something will change, and that he's changed from an imperialist, from a criminal to imperialist. There's a imperialism just is illogical and stupid. And the very fact that, you know, there are people out there who tell me that I'm wrong about this war and that, you know, I misrepresent Russia or something. You know what? I am now and now they're talking about mentality and culture. Basically, yeah, if you have this post-Soviet mentality, as I like to call it, as they say, then you are a Russian. Well, then that's the thing that needs to be that people need to get rid of. And the very fact that people are trying to think in different ways than just like this whole Soviet way where you're dependent on the state for literally everything, well, then that is Russophobia. Then again, the very fact that Russian fascists write that Russia as a country exists in its borders as it's now, well, that's also Russophobic. But now we're basically listening to two guys who honestly want to literally kill me. Given the chance, they would just murder me without even question. And that's what they're doing in Ukraine. He also mentioned that they built communism because it was literally rewritten from the Bible. Well, okay. Their idea is a society of total social equality. The problem with total social equality is that it doesn't work and will never work, but they have to. See, if their idea of their country would be something that is realistic, that they could achieve, then they couldn't make endless excuses about the enemy outside of Russia that is messing them up. That's the funny part. They cannot succeed. They can't, but they also can't change the idea, because then, you know, realistic ideas means you can set realistic goals. Yeah, these guys. He's now stating that our problem also is the fact that we have imperials and we have like the Soviets, and that we need to take the best from both the Soviet Empire and the Russian Empire and just combine it. Namely, we must take what works and throw away what didn't work. The issue here is that what worked were serfs. Yeah, Russian Empire lived on massive amounts of serfdom. Soviet Union with KGB and gulags and the oppression of other peoples, that worked. And it's sort of what they're doing now, after all, with the fact that everything where they gather resources and everything, that's Russians don't live there, and no money is given to those regions. You know. They're now justifying the fact that we're not racist, because if you believe in these very fascist ideas about how Russians are the dominant, then you also are a Russian. Basically, only true Russians are those who believe in this idea. This is a thing that they use. This is a thing that they use to justify why everyone who's like a liberal Russian actually isn't a real Russian. But thankfully, this is over now. Oh boy. This wasn't fun. This was horrid. And I felt quite miserable. And that's because it just goes on like this with these guys. The very idea of how they work and what they believe in, it just... This defense of everything that's... You really have to believe in the fact that what they're doing is good before you can actually start doing something, but it'll never... It is illogical by default. Therefore, again, whenever I say lines on maps on my show, and when people try to figure out what Putin wants and how this is going, yeah, this isn't the lines on maps argument. I want to check if Yuri Yevich maybe has a nice little vid with subtitles or something. Oh no, actually, I'm going to do one other thing, which I wanted to do, which I'm going to do here. We're going to watch this thing, which I'd like to give some comments about. But first, I'm going to poke Evita. She needs to read you the poems about, because these guys, because I promised patrons to have these poems here, so I need you to write them. Remember, because this fits in with this very last thing about how. Čia mēģinam atnāc nolas dzejolīti. Un atnes halu. Jā. Because remember what these guys said. You know, everyone's a Russian who believes in these ideas. Everyone's like, they're totally not, you know, totally not. Where is this? Oh, is this one? It's totally not like it's not like we're Nazis or something, even though they want to build this society. Well, today, the same group that you know made all this happen, the same group who this guy represents, who spoke about all this imperialism and everything, the same guys posted just after this interview their poems in Russian about the war, about how things function in there, and yet again, unsurprisingly, you might be shocked that when they speak about all this idea that everyone can become a Russian, yeah, that just doesn't work. Evita is going to read to you the English versions because the Russian versions, well, those of you who understand, well, oh boy, more people will not understand than well. Rush will do this, and then we're going to take a look at one little problem of William Spaniel, why I actually think lines on maps don't work, and why I really want to contact that dude. But yeah. Honey, here's for you, because I also need the bathroom break. Oh yeah, and you asked about the beer, which one I drink. It's Rezeknes Brewers. I'm not sponsored by them, sadly. I really should, though.
You should be. For the context, I was calmly eating pancakes in a kitchen, and now I have to do this. So I need to... Okay, he's gone. So I guess I need to read the English version. Where does it start? Oh.
Remember, they just stated that anyone can become a Russian if you believe this Russianness. And on the same channel where they posted this idea, you get this.
Let me just space them correctly,
Okay.
because I will not be reading it as a poem, as it's supposed to be read. I'll be reading them just as a absolute shit text, which is it anyway. But you know, I want to try and space it. It will sound badly in English. Well, it sounds just appalling in Russian as well, but at least it rhymes in some places, kinda. In some don't, of course, because those are the high poets that write this. Because rhythm, who needs it? Only Pushkin, I guess.
Yeah, they are written by Taber, the actual chairman of this organization. That this guy presented.
Tell them about the guy.
He was
While I...
Yeah, because these were written by the historian that was the guest of Kalashnikov's today. He was sent as a representative, as the intellectual elite of this movement, this Russian Russkaya Narodnaya Druzhina, whose logo I used for the thumbnail. And right next to this, and they ended on a nice note. We don't care who you are. If you believe in our ideals, you are Russian. Just after this post with this, right next after this, they posted these poems about their big problems. It's gonna be, well, quite the contrast, really. And also, for some reason, you guys seem to like Russian Vatnik poetry about the war. At least patrons do. So this one's for you guys. Also, sneaky me. I'm not putting that on the audio episode because I really need the watch time, and I hope that this is nice.
Okay, I don't care how it was spaced. I give up.
Yeah.
I give up. So these verses were written 2.5 years ago. Since then, little has changed in the hands of Vasily, Ivan, and Nikolai. It doesn't matter. Sure, it doesn't. So the poem starts. On Russia's endless expanses, in a lopsided Russian izba. Izba is a log hut, like a really old one, and not the best example of architecture, so to speak. Like I wouldn't even say a hut, maybe even some. Okay, hut is a good enough name for it. Sorry for being so laggy. I just need to refocus on this one from tasty pancakes. So, on Russia's endless expanses, in a lopsided Russian izba, Vasily sits silently on the stove bench, offering both cheeks to fate. His face cheeks, not ass cheeks. Just to clear that up. He cannot get up nor jump down. He cannot rise from the stove bench. On the vast expanses of Siberia, they will tell him, sit and be silent. On the expanses of on the expanses of Tver Magadan in Volgograd, Moscow, Kostroma, the soldiers of Islam are marching. They are marching across the Russian land. Well, Vasily lies and dreams that the war will pass him, his hut on the edge of the village. So why should he fight the war? And our Vasily lies pondering on maybe they will pass him by, that they won't say to him, listen, Uvasya, you have only 5 minutes to leave the house and go far, far away, where there will be no Russian expanses and there will be nothing left at all. That is the end of poem. I guess the big meaning of it is don't be Vasenka who just lies next to the fireplace and does nothing while Islamists take away the great Russian Empire and make you go away when there's no Russian soil. Little tear runs down. That was the first poem. It just hurts me physically to read it without any rhythm or rhyme or reason. I will try to space out the next one a little bit. In the meantime, I can tell that laying next to the fireplace and doing nothing, it is a very Russian concept. In poetry, in fairy tales, there's always some Vasya Durachok, Vasya the Dum-Dum that does it. All he does is just laying on the fireplace and being unproductive member of society. That actually sounds like an average Russian. Okay. The next great poem will be a bit longer, a bit more. I'm just trying to figure out how to space it. It will be more precise about their Islamic fears. His wife yells. Ugh.
Was it painful?
It was only the first one. Now I need to read the second one. Jesus, I have no idea how to space it. Okay, I don't give a fuck anymore. Verses from the same area, as if continuation. Is it made by Yuri Leonidovich?
Yep, same tower.
Oh, same guy, of course. It's his leveled up version of this.
I am not aiming the upwards couples.
Yeah, Kristaps makes an executive decision to leave. I envy him. They were sitting... the poem. They have no names, by the way, thank God, I guess. They were sitting on the stove bench, more accurately at home in front of the screen. They kept... this is a modern version. Mm-hmm. They kept baking sweet buns and bread rolls. Their life loud, all without defect. Svetul, tell me, what's on? Her husband shouts from the toilet. It looks like they hit the bridge. That very bridge where we were this summer. Oh, but that's Crimea. Exactly. I'm yelling about it too. But they said it was protected. Yeah, they are lying about everything, said Svetulya. Maybe a beer? I'll go to the shop. Go, but be careful there. Why is that? Seryoja asks his wife, scowling. Yuri, can you go without the mask? You can go without the mask, his wife yells after him into the entrance, worried. I guess COVID times, yeah. You can go without the mask, his wife yells after him into the entrance, worried. I'm just trying to process it. Sorry. Fuck that. But I'm afraid that they will attack. Tajiks from the bushes, not hiding. So days, weeks, years went by, and somewhere the war continued. They went to work in the morning and had a little beer in the evening. And the dacha, the country house, the gardens, everything there was overgrown too. They are not afraid of the fate's hardships. After all this is so far away. And time went on, the mortgage went on, the loan for the dacha, for the car. It doesn't matter what's on the internet, we are safe in our house. We don't care. And then their door was suddenly knocked upon, not by the bell, but with a fist. Who is it? With trembling hands, Seryoja opens the house. Who are you, Urus? That is a pejorative term for Russian man. Sergei Petrovich. And who is this? My wife. Leave the wife. And you, get out. She will cook for us. But how can this be? I won't allow it. What did you say? Everything. That's a little bit a mistake. Nothing. I'll be silent. Can I take Volodya with me? Take a pig with you if you like to. Just be quick. Hurry up. Quicker. My brother will live here now. And you, Urus, get out now. This is now my Moscow bad. Seryoja took his son Volodya 2 bags, beer, and off he went. Just so he wouldn't be killed here and not taken to the war. Well, as for Svetulya, she sleeps in the harem. She is now the 3rd wife, guarding Jamashut's sleep, because the main thing is that there is no war. Oh, that was painful, but that is their sentiment. If you are not fighting now, you are just watching it from a TV, you Russian citizen. Soon the Tajiks will come, take your life, take your wife. She will be in a harem, and you will be sent out.
Yeah, what they actually mean, by the way.
Fight today so you don't have Tajiks knocking on your door tomorrow and taking your wife.
Also, another thing, I like how everyone can be a Russian, totally okay. But
you can speak in here.
I like how they say that everyone can be a Russian if they believe the Russian ideas, except if you actually want to, any rights, then you're screwed.
This was absolutely terrible.
Painful, even.
It's painful.
I'll get to one last thing. I need to comment on this thing, why this whole thing matters. And
I will go finish my pancakes and also steal some beer. After this, I need it.
Oh yeah, I must show you the comments. People said hi to you and asked about pancakes, by the way.
Oh, they asked about pancakes.
Yeah, they said pancakes. Someone was happy there.
They were good until I came here.
There you go. Hi, Evita. Pancakes. Joseph said. Yeah,
pancakes rule. Pancakes rule. Russians don't.
Hopefully, I mean, but like, this.
No, not potato. With what is the with bacon and cheese.
Like the crepe. Can I please sit down?
And a lot of sour cream.
I want to finish this by why I think all this matters, and
yes.
And first of all, don't.
Bye bye.
I would like to start with the fact that I'm a huge fan of Mr. Spaniel. I've read his books, and he's really good at game theory. This is by no means a diss or anything of that sort. His whole idea is just that he makes very good assumptions, and his analysis would be perfect if Russia would be a normal country. Like if Russia would follow these, like if Russia would follow the same ideas as everyone else, if Russia would be a rational country and not something you have to believe in, then it would work. But currently it doesn't. And again, this is not a diss track. I really just want to somehow get through to this guy and show you what I mean when I speak about him. For those of you who haven't watched, and then I'm gonna be off writing actual script for the next step, and I have to do my понятие stuff. But let's just check this one out, because I like him. Again, this is not dissing. It's just that I really would like to have him on my show and at least, have a talk with him at one point. But this is what I mean when I speak about lines on maps and why you just can't simply use them, because then you can't explain things. And this video is an example of that. And again, please don't... I really like this guy. I actually care about him. He's a genuine expert. The problem is that his pure game theory needs some adjustments here and acceptance of the fact that Russia is not exactly a normal country.
Russia just did something utterly bizarre in Venezuela.
Oh, what a surprise.
But there is no other way to describe the situation. And if the claims are true, then Ukraine may get to twist an apparently bad situation into a good one. Let's roleplay for a second. Imagine that you work in the Kremlin, and right now, Ukraine is in the midst of such an expansive air campaign that I feel the need to play this timeline at 10x speed or so, lest I unnecessarily stall out the narrative of this video. But again, you work in the Kremlin.
Okay, here's gonna be his very first mistake.
Do you, 1, send air defenses to Venezuela, or 2, do you not send air defenses to Venezuela? Well,
see, this is a binary choice only if you presume that the guy in Kremlin actually gives a fuck about his country and isn't totally corrupt, and actually, at least in his mind during the day, there is a little tiny thought about some effectiveness or anything of that sort. These, if you would be a clerk anywhere else and in a similar situation. Hello? Okay, sorry. I'm gonna try to take a look at this. Now, is this better now? Because I have to figure out how is this working.
if you say
Okay, is this better now?
Congratulations.
Basically, yeah, what he's talking is the fact that any rational agent would do this. However, in Russia, if you're a clerk working in the Kremlin, then you are then you're a close assistant to Putin, and you couldn't give less shits about actually winning the war. You care about what looks better in the PR department, what looks better for Putin. You have totally different priorities. The utter disinterest with actually, with actual geopolitics, the average Kremlin person, and how much they just want to embezzle more money, that's the thing. I wonder, where does he take me this stuff? Also, I'm a check. So I thought if someone would tell me, then this. Okay, let's see now. If I press OK here, is this better? No, that is Mike Oakes. This one. Why do you do this then? Let me check on the properties of that stuff so that. Oh. Wait. Audio input, yes, we do have that. Video capture. I'm not checking the audio mixer. I must have done something not that well. Properties, let's go. It just says use device timestamps. Maybe it's filters or something. This maybe? This... I'm a bit confused because they literally just... It says it's pretty loud actually. I'm just very confused about how this is working. Currently, you're hearing my audio from... I guess you're hearing it from the... what's coming in from the mic? I suppose... Wait, I'll check if that's true, then... No, that should be fine. Okay, let me check the managerial stuff. Sorry about that. Look, this is the end, and the most important part was earlier, so I hope that it's gonna be fine, but it's just very confusing to me. And can I add... I can maybe try this. Okay, device. Do you do... Well, I will deal with this later on. Okay, so audio input capture is this. And then we're going to have an audio output capture, which is also going to be this. And hopefully this will do a bit better. I'm not sure though. I hope this will work.
You made a sensible strategic choice.
Oh, nice.
After all, you need those air defenses to prevent the situation inside of Russia.
Okay, is this better now? It should be better. Oh, nice. Good. Thank you. I just checked on this. Well, so basic idea is that again, we'll start this then, because this is just an example here.
At 10x speed or so, lest I unnecessarily stall out the narrative of this video.
Okay, I'll turn
But
the
again,
volume of that down.
you work in the Kremlin. Do you 1. Send air defenses to Venezuela, or 2. Do you not send air defenses to Venezuela? Well, if you said do not, then congratulations. You made a sensible strategic choice. After all, you need those air defenses to prevent the situation inside of Russia from getting even worse. But you apparently would not be...
Again, like I said, it presumes that yeah, well, okay. I mean, I'm just saying that the answer here is obvious. You do whatever it looks better on paper because you don't care about Russia. And he can't do that because he's purely academical. And if he starts thinking about other things, like, if he calculates corruption in that much, then it'll just, it'll seem bizarre. But it doesn't seem bizarre to anyone who's like following me for a while.
Matching the Kremlin's current strategy. I say apparently because there are some complications here, but that is where things stand now. There is a lot to unravel here, so let's start with what we know. On October 26th, a Russian Il-76 cargo plane landed in Venezuela.
Il-76, yeah.
You might remember this as the one that had to take an elaborate flight path through Armenia, Algeria, Morocco, Senegal, and Mauritania, as we discussed earlier this week. At the time, we did not have much of an idea what was actually inside the plane.
Communism.
Small arms, Russian advisors, weapons for the naval domain. Well, now a Russian lawmaker claims that the plane delivered Panzer S-1 and Buk M2 air defense systems to Venezuela. This is not some random person either. He is on the Duma's Defense Committee, meaning that he is in a position to know what is happening. And before we get...
He's in Gosduma. What he does is rubber stamps things. They don't have a real budget even. But also, he presumes that someone in Gosduma would actually, care about all the serfs and other, the common people around so that he would care. Like, they don't care already. They just did what looks good on paper. Or he might have just lied, but I don't doubt that actually they would send something.
Into the more serious implications for wars in both hemispheres. Well, one that is actually happening now, and another that may break out soon. Let me point out that Russian legislators can say a lot of things, and they do not need to be true. This lawmaker in particular had lobbied to send nuclear weapons to Cuba and Venezuela, after the invasion of Ukraine began.
Literally everyone
Something
else did
about
that.
punishing the United States for any aid it might provide to Ukraine. That might give you an idea of his overall worldview. Also, IL-76 planes are big, but they are not that big. And those systems cited are large themselves. So it is unclear how one single flight to Venezuela would have delivered multiple copies of multiple systems. The IL-76 bounced around some Latin American
There's
countries
a lot of money that
after
can
its
be
initial
embezzled
stop
on
in
this.
Venezuela, and then stopped in
Obviously.
Venezuela again. But unless Russia was rearranging systems from, say, Cuba, or operating stealth flights that no one in the open source intel community could observe, then the quantity of the aid is dubious. You could make the
Look,
case
you sell
that the
one
Kremlin wanted to make a
anti-air
token
system,
gesture,
you can pocket so
and
much
that the
money, it doesn't
lawmaker
matter, they're
went into
expensive.
overdrive with his rhetoric. It is also weird that the lawmaker would publicize anything that happened. A private company was operating the flight. Now, the private carrier, in itself, is not weird. The Soviet Union made a ton of IL-76 planes, and cargo carriers are cargo carriers.
I want to see his argument.
Civilians can use them too. But when the map of oil and gas strikes looks like this, giving another country air defenses feels like the ultimate let-them-eat-cake moment. Thus, I would want to transfer some equipment covertly, not because of the traditional interstate secret reasons, but rather to hide what is happening from my own public. But
See,
let's put
another
aside all
presumption.
of those
The
question
fact that,
marks
again,
for at
someone cares
least
about the
most
public.
of the rest of this video, and take the lawmaker's claim at face value. Then what should we make of it? I think that there are 3 points worth exploring. We should focus first on the deeper implications of the cake problem.
Well,
What does it say if Putin prefers to prioritize Venezuelan air defense over the next most vulnerable target in Russia? Well, let's explore two possibilities. The tempting explanation is that the Kremlin is simply misreading the situation. And I say the tempting explanation because it was a significant misreading of both Ukrainian domestic politics and Russia's own military capacity that led to this declaration of a special military operation
yeah, he misreads
on
things in the
February
global
24th,
terms, but for this thing, he
2022.
probably doesn't even know or care.
And thus a meme has formed. The Kremlin is clueless and makes mistakes all the time. So clearly,
the problem
this
here
is
is
just
also
the
that-
next iteration of that.
the meme didn't
Okay,
form then.
obviously
for
there
all of
is
us
some
here,
truth to the
meme was
Kremlin
alive
having
all this time
systemic
for
faults.
years since the Soviet era.
But I think that it is worth revisiting how that miscalculation arose and understanding why the situation today is different. The obvious trouble with trying to guess another country's resolve is that, as we have explored with some trusty lines many times, the opponent has all the incentive in the world to bluff resolve, regardless of its true disposition. Of course, Russia sent intelligence operatives into Ukraine.
Look, if he would watch Maxim Kalashnikov like me and you, then he would know that the guys are constantly yelling at Putin, calling him totally incompetent at running the war, saying that he's doing everything badly, and that their morale is not based on Putin, but on this glorious Russian imperialism, which they have to believe in. Yeah, like, it's easy. It's out there. I'm making episodes on this. This is the fact that he needs to check in because, you know, how the morale actually is. Yeah, you can read those sources. They're open there. They're out there.
To look for answers on the eve of the war. But it is hard to get a clear picture, and it is even
No, it
harder
isn't.
for the folks back at headquarters to know whether their operatives are doing a good job. And heck, I am not sure that many Ukrainians would have bet that the country would unite as much as it did after it came under attack. As for the other half of Russia's uncertainty issues, there was a clear disconnect between what soldiers and officers on the ground understood and what was making its way back up to the Kremlin.
Yes,
There
still
is plenty of blame to spread around for that. Russia's hollowed out independent media, failure to follow through on corruption initiatives, the COVID-19 pandemic,
I wouldn't
certain
call
Putin
failure to follow
appointments,
through on corruption initiatives.
Putin's
I more
own
call it
unwillingness to travel to inspect the
based on
problems.
corruption.
The list goes on. And as I was editing this, I realized I said corruption initiatives instead of anti-corruption initiatives. A Freudian slip, perhaps, because it does capture the state of affairs in Moscow. But what is critical to understand here is that the Kremlin has made the proper adjustments to war policy when new information becomes publicly available. The battlefield losses,
some
the
things-
failure to capture Kyiv.
See, that's the thing. I understand why he does this, even though because of the big price and everything. Because on paper, in documentation, Putin has made some adjustments, and those adjustments are very slow. And for example, with the drones, Putin thinks that technically on paper Russia has a ton of drones, but they just don't fly. We hear about this all the time. The thing is that as an academical person, as a purely academical professor, he can't just grab anecdotal evidence. But in this case, the fact that because of how Russia works, because of how it lies all the time, how it's an inheritor of the Soviet Union, reading official papers is just as silly as when I was doing my history stuff and someone quoted Pravda at me of that as an actual source. That's a big issue where the cultural knowledge comes in. Otherwise, if all those sources that he's getting would be valid, and if that would be a normal country, then he would be okay. Again, I'm not dissing him because honestly, I really would like to just have him on the show and talk about this. I have nothing but the utmost respect. His game theory is okay, it's really good, but it's not really applicable here. This is the problem.
And the general political unity of Ukraine meant that Russia needed to adjust its strategy after the first couple of months of the invasion. And adjust Russia did. Put differently, the problem is less of Russia being naive with its strategizing, and more about failing to obtain good information about how its strategies will play out. That may sound like an academic distinction, but it is not. And it matters here because the refinery attacks are publicly observable. No one in the Kremlin is unsure about whether they are happening. And if you are unsure whether the information is filtering up there, remember that there are plenty of oligarchs who spend plenty of time in the Kremlin that are scared out of their minds about what is happening.
Yeah, this is also a nice little presumption because that's what oligarchs would do in other countries. But again, oligarchs have been pushed aside. Khodorkovsky went to prison. The really rich people, well, the smart ones are moving on their own. The idea that they will press Putin means that if you try to go to Putin and argue that something is bad, you fall out of window. It's pointless. So this is just a thing that doesn't happen. The oligarchs are too busy stuffing their own pockets, pretending the war doesn't exist, and hiding their assets. For example, Vuchko is correct here in the comments. For example, the fact that literally zero oligarchs have made any donations to the army at all. If they would care about the Russians and Russia with their vast wealth, like in Ukraine, you could see a lot of wealthy people, the same Poroshenko, for example, and other famous, important people making donations, doing something from their effort. In Russia, this is like nothing. Like if he can't give even for public look some sort of cash to the army somehow, and even more people like Vladimir Solovyov, who is in the same class of people where they steal all of this, why do you think they care about this stuff? They actually sort of enjoy this mess because Gazprom can do a rip-off schemes through insurance through this, and they simply don't care. And they know that physically they literally yesterday I watched a Russian channel based on Khodorkovsky's group, but Aslanyan, I think, he wrote about how oligarchs have lost political power. They was beaten out of them. They were forced not to. Do everything you want with your money, be as corrupt as you can, but don't even get near power. It doesn't happen in other systems, and it would, but this is here where oligarchs as an argument just fails completely.
Thus, information on that front is not a problem.
Yes, it is, because again, now this conclusion is done. Information here is given by very few people and only good news.
The second explanation is that the Kremlin has the Russian public politically locked down. In other words, it does not matter whether the refineries are all getting blown up, and gasoline prices are surging. The Russian population is no threat to the Kremlin, and the Kremlin only cares about foreign policy. So the Russian people can just deal with it. Basically, we are back to the cake, except the Kremlin is ostensibly sure that the story today will not end.
Okay, here's this idea. He knows how Russian people work. Gas refinery owner's problem. We will just complain about bigger gasoline, and the propaganda says that we will endure everything. It's not taken as personally. And again, he's protecting those people who matter. He's probably going to use as an argument here the fact that, look, he's not doing mobilization because of political things. But that's a different study. That's a way different study than caring about some gas refinery. Also, Russian population is constantly being told that no drones hit the refineries. It's fine. It's just oblomki or debris falling all the time. And not all of them follow all this stuff. They've been told not to. So this thing is not exactly true. It's like you have to push through it.
The way it did for Marie Antoinette. Oh, and for all of you walking your dogs right now, of which apparently there are many, I am now showing an image of her execution. Also, Thor was a very good boy. Let's all draw a line for him today. This would be an odd position for the Kremlin to take, though, because
Why?
subsidized gasoline prices have long been a part of the Russian social contract. They get cheap gas prices, and they can ignore foreign policy. But that means that if they are not getting cheap gas prices, they should not be ignoring foreign policy.
No, it doesn't. It just means they'll complain and wanker and nothing will happen. He has driven passivity into them. Cheap gas prices was sort of a thing, but people complain about this, yes. But there's not much they'll do. In Russia, historically, real problems start only with mass mobilization, because then that really hit people. The gas prices is gonna be like bizarre, because just it's not how the whole thing works. It's not about those gas prices. Hell, the people who are living in Stalin's era buildings with no electricity, no running water, well, they do this because of the stupid idea. Those people who cared about this money and cared about this social contract, those who cared only about their pockets, they're gone. The rest of them don't have any resources at all. Like those who have it, they're having their own plans. This isn't how the social contract just works in Russia. I mean, it's how it can be explained academically, but here all the little cultural differences and details pile up. So he's just bizarrely trying to figure out some sort of thing and comes up with a bizarre strategic plan.
So it would be weird to suddenly pivot from that position. But if that is the Kremlin's thought process, connecting back...
Look, weird to pivot from a position. In 2022, Putin said that that there will be no mass mobilization and that no conscripts will be joining the army. Then he just shifted away and caused mobilization. That's a pivot. So this is a much smaller pivot. It's not weird at all.
To the first point, there is no guarantee that the Kremlin is right about its political dominance. Public willingness to protest is hard to gauge until an objectionable policy comes into place. So the real test may be seeing how the Russian population reacts. The fall 2022 mobilization provides a case study of this principle.
Yep.
It is also another example of the Kremlin updating its war strategy given what it observes on the battlefield. The Kremlin thought that it could win with what it had. It could not. So the Kremlin mobilized and thought it would be politically fine to do so.
It wasn't.
It was not. So the Kremlin adjusted before it became a political disaster. Thus, to conclude this part of the video, maybe what the lawmaker claimed actually is happening. Maybe it is a bit of an experiment, and maybe the policy is subject to change.
I don't think it's an experiment. I think the answer is just much more simple. The guy who sent the things wanted to have some political clout and embezzle money. Because corruption is everywhere there, and that is, when it comes to Russia, the simplest solution. Just deep strategic things. The same with like the bases, the barracks in Finland. Come on. The barracks in Finland, that's an obvious ripoff. Come on. If they're going to attack somewhere, they're not going to attack Finland. They're going to attack, well, me, personally. So that also won't work.
Or maybe the Russian lawmaker is still full of bluster. But let's continue to a couple more key points, presupposing that the aid is a more serious policy decision from the Kremlin. I need to be precise with my next words. Observing an aid disbursement is informative of Russia's belief that Trump's deployment is not a pure bluff. Note that I am not saying that the Kremlin believes that a war will happen, just that Trump is serious about something. Now, it is tempting to look at the situation and say that things only make sense if Russia believes that the United States will attack. Otherwise, those air defenses need to be in Russia. However, this is where having a good knowledge of lines on maps tells you something subtle. In crisis bargaining, the deals made to avoid a war must be commensurate with the balance of power. So the more power Venezuela has, the better it will do either in terms of a negotiated settlement or an expected war outcome, whichever one is how this conflict ultimately concludes. Surprisingly, arms are just as useful in a coercive peace as they are in a war. As a result, Russia receives its return on investment one way or another. The transfer should not be interpreted as
Money,
evidence that
liquid
Russia
cash,
expects
which
a
they
war
need.
to actually start. It is, however, informative of Russia's expectation that this is not a pure bluff from Trump. That is the distinction here between a coercive peace and waving a white flag.
To be honest.
In other words, Trump is not doing this for show, only to pull back without receiving any concessions. Perhaps that should not come as a shock. We have discussed in abstract terms before how the deployment is inconsistent with a pure bluff. The New York Times, citing sources inside of the White House, also indicates as much. But it is always helpful to have some confirmation from a state-level entity. Finally, the transfer raises interesting questions about how Ukraine should feel regarding the whole situation. As of late, the key word you most frequently hear from policymakers in Kyiv is tomahawks.
It's a corruption deal, and
With that as a backdrop,
they're gonna
holding
figure this
everything
one out
else
anyways.
equal, you would be tempted to conclude that a U.S.-Venezuela war would be bad for Ukraine. After all, tomahawks would be one of the naval deployment's primary strike options. And the more that they get used in Venezuela, the less freedom that there is to send them to Ukraine. And up until the claim...
Yeah, but the other point is that as you saw from the long episode, which is why this was important, the big one, was the fact that Russia, when faced with unavoidable evidence, yeah, they panic. They hate the very fact. If Putin becomes like more and more a loser, then it's bad. Russia needs a win desperately somewhere, somehow, because in Russia, if you're not the rightful czar if you lose. So it might be good for Ukraine in the sense that if Venezuela fails, and it's public knowledge then that they actually provided aid, it's going to be another political loss for Putin. And those add up. I'm still fully convinced of a massive civil war there happening. It's not going to be good for me, but it's, I think, better for the whole world and humanity in general.
Of air defense deliveries to Venezuela, I would have been in agreement there. But now the picture is a bit foggier. If the Kremlin is as out of touch with the situation inside of the Federation as the Russian lawmakers' claim suggests, then the shadow of an active war in Venezuela might cause Russia to send even more equipment over to Venezuela. That would open the skies further for Ukrainian drone strikes, more public discontent inside of Russia, and who knows from there. In sum, I think that we should take what anyone in the Russian government says with a grain of salt.
Oh no!
But goodness, is it a bizarre development.
See, he came to the conclusion that you shouldn't trust Russia after all this time. And now finally, the last one that I want to show you today is Maxim Katz. He has English subtitles, but this is the thing. I really like William's panel. He's smart. He's good. But the fact that he missed some few things there, that was pretty bad there, which really felt quite bad. But this is a video that I wanted to check because it really didn't fit in my episode here. But this is about Russia attacking Europe and all that potential. What Vatniks think and how this guy views it, who's a Russian liberal, Russian opposition. That's the whole idea, the fact that how they're still building plans about grand assaults and how they view their own equipment and abilities. Because look at what they're going to be planning for Europe. With this, we're going to end. But it's just crazily weird because, again, if I really hope that I'm doing some good, and I know that a lot of important people actually listen to my show and pay attention, so I know that it's not just pure academia. Like I said, I gave a lecture there. And it's important to note that you can't, if you just go from pure academia, then the conclusions, well, they're very close and as accurate as he can make them, but oh boy, nowhere near what you would really see in reality. But this is an interesting thing, specifically about Europe.
Есть широко известный в узких кругах, в том числе во властных, источник ВЧК УГПУ, который иногда славится своими весьма точными инсайдами. До такой степени точными, что аж Дурова продавили на блокировку этого канала. И в этом источнике появился натурально апокалиптический план Путина на войну в Европе. Там прям все совсем по жести. Предполагается, что в самое ближайшее время, в 26-28 годах, Путин попытается начать операцию по демилитаризации НАТО в Европе, для чего будет проведена массовая мобилизация.
See, that's the problem. This inside and all the scoops. This comes from people who think about how to win the whole war, and this is the plan of how they would see it. But the insane plan, yeah, it shows that real casualty numbers are unreported, and the economy, yeah, it's in shambles right now. Not gonna get much better.
Изъяты деньги со вкладов граждан. Заявляется, что допустимые для Путина потери в такой войне до 20 миллионов человек. Если читать написанное отвлеченным взглядом, то написан там бред буйно помешанного. Но тема с войной Путина и европейского НАТО никуда не девается. И ни один серьезный эксперт, ни один внятный европейский лидер особо не спорят с тем, что возможность такой войны существует. Поэтому давайте поговорим о том, насколько вероятен описанный апокалипсис в обозримой перспективе. Прежде чем начнем, напомню, по ссылке в описании вы найдете инструкции, как можно бесплатно обойти российские блокировки. Сохраните себе эту ссылку на всякий случай. Начнем вот с чего. Откуда вообще взялся у нас феномен вот таких вот телеграм-каналов с инсайдами, которые иногда оказываются даже точны? Дело в том, что свободные и разнообразные СМИ — это не выдумка проклятущих либералов, которая, мол, для того только и существует, чтобы подбивать население учинить переворот. Нет. СМИ — важная штука для большой и сложно устроенной системы, где есть много всяких властных групп и акторов, которые хотят и понимать, что происходит у других, и доносить свою позицию. Это только снаружи кажется, что вся совокупность управленческой номенклатуры, от министров и совбеза до губернаторов и олигархов, каждый день собирается в одной комнате и вместе решает, как бы им отыметь народ получше. Или что у них, не знаю, там чатик в Телеграме общий. Все говорят друг другу правду, публикуют реальную статистику и делятся тайными знаниями, которые не положено знать простым смертным. Что это как с уклонением от налогов. Что есть, мол, белая бухгалтерия, то, что уходит в телевизор, а есть черная папочка, где все друг с другом делятся реальными планами и данными. На самом деле, это, конечно, не так все. Этот серпентарий единомышленников друг другу не друзья, а злейшие враги, конкурирующие за власть, за ресурсы, за деньги, в нашем случае за доступ к главному телу. Ни слову друг друга они не верят и с большой охотой поспособствуют переезду ближнего в СИЗО. Не просто так эти люди оказались в своих креслах. На том, чтобы обмануть, подсидеть, подставить, а не собаку съесть.
He's right here, and this is a Russian opposition person who's a well-known dude. He's talking facts here from experience. Now, another thing why I think where William made his first mistake is the fact that he didn't take this into account. Again, I think he should treat. I think he would make the right decisions if he would treat it like, I don't know, something he knows better, like Sinaloa cartel, which I like to use as an example here.
И все друг про друга это знают. В относительно нормальной ситуации, которая была еще совсем недавно, эти люди общались между собой через СМИ. Источник коммерсанта там-то и там-то сказал то-то и то-то. В распоряжении ведомостей оказался такой-то документ. За этим стояли реальные источники, и так все и должно работать. Теперь же все СМИ поделились на две категории. Уехавшие, которые все инагенты, экстремисты, нежелательные, они по определению без доступа куда-либо. И оставшиеся, которые загнаны в такие рамки, что рерайт официальных пресс-релизов — единственный их хлеб. Потребность одних держателей власти разговаривать с другими при этом никуда не делась. Природа не терпит пустоты. И на том месте, где выкорчевали культурные породы, тут же выросли сорняки. Те самые анонимные телеграм-каналы, которые не связаны ни законами, ни этикой, ни понятиями. На один реальный инсайт они с радостью выдумают 10. Они зарабатывают на шантаже, размещалове, блоках на негатив и прочей околокриминальной активности. ВЧК УГПУ один из них, но выделяется. Доля настоящих инсайдов у него высока. Сложно упомнить прям откровенные от них выдумки. Его точно читают всякие серьезные люди, воспринимая как источник. И, видимо, он настолько опасный и строптивый, что вместо того, чтобы его как обычно там перекупить или, не знаю, посадить того, кто его ведет, пришлось давить аж на самого Дурова, который канал удалил. Такой рычаг применяют очень нечасто. Именно по этим причинам мы обращаем внимание на их опубликованные вот в Твиттере прогноз. Потому что назвать их прям рядовой анонимной помойкой нельзя. Помойка, но не рядовая. Прежде чем спорить с написанным у ВЧК УГПУ, признаем ограничение любого анализа сейчас. В августе и даже в сентябре вся бюрократическая, законодательная, бюджетная и даже военная активность приводили нас к мысли: уж как-то больно странно все сходится в одной точке. Могло показаться, будто вся внезапно обострившаяся бурная деятельность направлена на сотворение чего-то очень масштабного и очень нехорошего в ближайшей перспективе, чуть ли не осенью этого года. В начале ноября картина совсем иная. Подробно обсудим ее, собственно, дальше. Еще возможности для анализа ограничены свойствами таких режимов, как наш. Персоналистская автократия плоха тем, что ее действия очень сложно всерьез прогнозировать. Слишком многое зависит от одного человека, а в голову к нему никак не залезешь.
This is another thing that, while you can't use just purely game theory when you talk about Russia and clerks, that presumes other clerks mean something. Dictatorships just don't work that way.
К тому же, человек этот аж с 99-го года, со своих 47 лет, существует в среде, напоминающей дом престарелых и ясли одновременно. Конечно, все главы больших государств живут примерно так. Мы подчеркиваем именно длительность такого существования. Путина поят, кормят, перемещают по миру, как оригинал Джоконды. Даже не чихают рядом. Он не общается ни с какими посторонними людьми. В этом смысле он отличается даже от европейских самодержцев 19 века и ранее. Те-то постоянно находились в кругу интернациональной аристократии, в контакте с равными себе. Путин же общается только с прислугой. Это может быть как охранник, так и Сечин или Миллер, которые по отношению к Путину та же прислуга. Ведь их роль — выполнять решения, принятые не ими. У Медведева свобода возражать относительно войны не больше, чем у кремлевских поваров относительно того, что Путин на завтрак хочет. Жизнь даже просто большого чиновника — это состояние близкое к младенчеству. Борис Немцов, вон, вице-премьером пробыл всего ничего, 1,5 года. Но он описывал свой стресс после отставки вот так. Заходишь, мол, в лифт, а он не едет. Что же делать? Потому что за 1,5 года ты настолько привыкаешь, что рядом с тобой всегда есть человек для нажимания кнопки лифта, что обратно адаптироваться тяжело. Или идешь в ресторан и не знаешь ни единого названия блюда, потому что пока был губернатором и министром, пока тебя круглосуточно
This just reminded me of the anecdote from from like the modern day, the only one about Putin that I know. Putin and the whole like Chamber of Ministers in Gosduma, they go to a restaurant, and the waiter comes up and asks, sir, we have two specials today. We have meat and we have chicken. Which one do you have? And then Putin responds, well, I'll have the meat. And then he offers him and says, and the vegetables? And Putin just looks at around him and says, the vegetables will also have meat. Which is exactly their status over there.
Служивали, в общепите сменилось 3 эпохи. Немцов провел во власти в сумме совсем не так долго, но достаточно, чтобы нормально так по башке стукнуло. Поэтому нужно понимать, Путин не просто посторонний нам человек, мысли которого не угадаешь. Это человек, живущий в настолько искаженных, противоестественных условиях, что мы просто не сможем поставить себя на его место. Он не пользуется интернетом. Этот факт в 25-м году говорит о многом. Его ровесники за пределами Кремля без интернета жить не могут, потому что в телефоне как минимум приложение Сбербанка с пенсией, запись к терапевту. И каким бы ретроградом ты ни был, но внукам с домашнего уже не очень-то позвонить. У Путина также есть своя отдельная новостная лента. В его мире то, что все остальные считают суперважным и обсуждают целыми днями, может вообще не существовать. А какая-то херня, постоявшая 8-й новостью в углу, может в глазах Путина стать серьезнейшей угрозой. Единственный способ попытаться понять, что Путин сделает завтра, экстраполировать то, что он делал вчера в похожей ситуации. Очень плохой способ. Но другого у нас нет. Но нет у нас опции вжиться в роль. Выкинуть телефон в окно и на 25 лет уехать во дворец за глухой забор, окружив себя сотнями людей, которые ежедневно целуют в запретные места. Учитывая все это, поговорим все-таки о перспективах войны с Европой. Чем ближе мы к сентябрю будущего года, тем меньше верится, что сейчас стоит опасаться новой войны, где бы то ни было. Мобилизации, заморозки вкладов или запрета выезда. В сентябре будущего года ожидаются выборы в Государственную Думу. С нашей колокольни это не выглядит как аргумент. Сейчас об этом всем поговорим. Сначала небольшая реклама, посмотрите, пожалуйста.
Есть популярный миф, что если вы будете иногда смотреть сериалы и читать книжки на иностранном языке, то ваше им владение кардинально...
У нас будут выборы в Государственную Думу. Может, с нашей колокольни это не выглядит как аргумент. На этих выборах проблема будет не в том, чтобы отбиться от каких-то подозрительных кандидатов. Никого не допустят за километр, пометуя очереди, не допустят даже до сбора подписей. Проблема будет найти согласованных желающих поучаствовать. Но с колокольни системы, и надо думать Путина, выборы подобны приручению крокодила. Вот вроде зубы ему вырвали, пасть связали, забили в угол и запугали до ужаса. Но все равно каждый раз страшно, каждый раз непонятно, что там у этой рептилии в башке. Вот вроде такой забитый и безобидный в углу сидит. А как вдарит хвостом, тут же и вылетишь в окно. Причем выборы для таких систем, как наша, это крокодил профильный. Питается он именно такими автократиями. Как только они чуть-чуть впадут в самоуверенность и забудут об осторожности в его присутствии. И съел этот крокодил далеко не одну такую автократию. Вот вроде бы нет такого человека в России, кто сегодня бы помнил и обсуждал грядущие выборы. Но в администрации президента вовсю готовятся, проводят совещания, думают о стратегии, и часть материалов этих совещаний утекает в публичный доступ. И оказывается, что не все так хорошо с рейтингом Единой России, например. Что они в принципе не считают грядущие выборы легкой прогулкой и прогнозируют недовольство относительно социально-экономического положения. Сами выборы не предмет сегодняшнего обсуждения, мы о них еще не раз поговорим отдельно. Сейчас важно понимать вот что. Система выборов опасается, понимает наличие проблем и точно не хочет рисковать и экспериментировать. В принципе, если мы посмотрим на всю предыдущую историю, то увидим, что время непосредственно перед выборами, как минимум за год, относительно спокойно. Самый опасный период исторически наступает сразу после выборов. Тогда система выдыхает и понимает, что до будущих кампаний далеко. Тут-то все и начинается. Повышение пенсионного возраста, введение репрессивных законов, монетизация льгот, война. Первый год после президентских или парламентских выборов самый опасный. Причем для всех. И для граждан, и для элиты.
Oh, I can.
Не всегда это бывает настолько немедленно и жестко, как в 24-м.
I go through war
выборы и
fronts.
сразу
War fronts
полетели клочки по закоулкам.
are the guys
Сразу стали сажать и отжимать.
Ruководство Минобороны почти в полном составе поехало в СИЗО. А за ними вице-губернаторы, олигархи, ректоры, заячки в трамвайчике и код задом наперед. Кампания репрессий элит началась слишком уж нарочито. Ее нельзя привязать ни к чему, кроме выборов. Но в других случаях мы видим самые жуткие и заведомо непопулярные решения откладываются на попозже. Махали кулаками на Украину в мае 21-го, но напали в феврале 22-го, когда с выборами было попроще. Если экстраполяция такого рода работает, то ничего вот прям глобального и опасного ситуация в следующие 10 месяцев вроде бы не должно. Новая война, а уж тем более мобилизация, никого не обрадует. Это огромный риск, который совмещать с выборами системе точно не нужно. Резонное замечание, которое высказывает ВЧК УГПУ, в том, что последние 2,5 года государство последовательно выстраивает законодательную, управленческую, технологическую... What the hell? Okay, so it decided to basically turn on the thing that it had not turned on last time. So now I finally found I was fixing the sound, and the desktop audio capture just didn't work, so I switched it to another thing, and now it just doesn't do anything. Wait. I'll get back to this, but please. Is this better? This should be better, hopefully. This should be fine. Yeah, mobilization is horrible.
никогда не работает вхолостую. Если законы принимаются, нормативные акты пишутся, базы собираются, значит, есть какая-то конечная цель. И то, что ее не видно, повод скорее беспокоиться, чем расслабляться. Зачем нужно строить систему, способную одним днем, безо всякого предупреждения, сделать невыездными десятки миллионов мужчин?
That's a whole thing. In Russia, you sit down and you worry about the stuff you don't understand. You don't laugh it off. You always become worried because they might fear something horrible again. Okay, I just switched it back. I'll deal with this tomorrow because again, they just got updated. They just got updated and then I'm like, it shows desktop audio and then it's okay. Is this now better? I'm gonna have to read tutorials.
Почему в августе 20-го стало совсем невозможно терпеть лидера оппозиции живым? Ответы на все эти вопросы мы узнали в феврале 22-го. Если государство собрало, начистило, смазало ружье и повесило его на стену, оно, безусловно, выстрелит.
Cool, I think I fixed it finally.
Yay. Не факт, что туда, куда мы думаем. Ружье может висеть долгие годы.
But yeah, put in spending, that's a big one.
Еще один аргумент ВЧК УГПУ в том, что расходы на войну не соответствуют ее масштабу.
Ежегодные вливания РФ средств, 12% всего ВВП РФ, в свое военное производство в объемах, превышающих весь ВВП Украины, нужны не для продолжения СВО, это прикрытие, а для возможной военной операции по демилитаризации стран Восточной и Центральной Европы.
Конечно, тут есть вопросы к самой оценке. 12% российского ВВП – это примерно 24 триллиона рублей. Больше половины всего российского федерального.
That is nonsense simply because they really don't have the resources.
Цифра взялась и из чего складывается. Номинальные расходы по статье «Национальная оборона», которые вдвое ниже приведенной цифры, очевидно, не покрывают общие расходы на войну.
I mean, he's thinking that way because again, he's getting all the good stuff, you know, all the proper news.
У них нет топливного демпфера, компенсации расходов нефтяникам за удержание цен на топливо в условиях ежедневных атак на НПЗ и нефтебазы. В расходах по статье «Нацоборона» не заложены также расходы на пропаганду.
Wait, what?
А посчитать их толком невозможно. Они идут по разным каналам, не только из бюджетов всех уровней, но и через госкомпании.
Yeah, the propaganda issue and what's there is a very difficult one.
Долгов и кредитными каникулами. Не учитывается и то обстоятельство очевидное, что ныне в Россию едут не только сотни трупов, но и тысячи молодых инвалидов, которые будут получать пенсии.
Well, if the government gives the money, that is.
Буквально в каждую статью и федерального, и региональных, и местных бюджетов, а еще внебюджетные фонды и средства госкомпаний.
Yeah,
расходы на лечение раненых – это тоже расходы на войну.
Nice little PR in a hospital, maybe even with heating.
Способен подсчитать общую смету, где будет отражена точная стоимость войны и военного производства. Поэтому цифры в 12% ВВП представляются ни на чем не основанными. Сомнительным кажется и сам аргумент. Государство тратит сильно больше относительно масштабов войны.
Yeah, I for one believe that he's saying that for the right-wing crowd. Because he knows he has to, you know, you have to make excuses for the fact that you're doing very, very poorly. And this is an excuse, nice little excuse where you can hear things. Okay, maybe this will be better. Fine, I'll check. If you don't hear me again, let me know.
Когда на ремонт школьного фасада уходит столько денег, что рядом можно еще 2 школы построить, ни у кого не возникает мысли, что тем самым маскируется какое-то особенное злодейство. Все прекрасно понимают, что случилось с деньгами. Дворцы размером с самолетный ангар, миллиарды наличных рублей в коробках из-под обуви и десятки миллиардов долларов на зарубежных счетах, яхты и все прочие признаки невыносимой роскоши. Они от сырости, что ли, заводятся? В случае российского государства использовать аргумент «они слишком дофига тратят», должно быть к чему-то, мол, готовиться, это как минимум странно. Даже в значительно менее стрессовых ситуациях с меньшей непредсказуемостью наше государство умеет на каждый потраченный рубль еще один своровать и 10 продолбать. Это не новость и не довод для анализа.
That is not news for us over here, but it might be news for someone who's like not from this area. They don't count on the fact that it's going to be corruption. The corruption is going to happen, but obviously it will. Oh, nice. No, don't be sorry. Just that I'm not that good with this bizarre thing that is the streaming software. OBS lives its own life. I think I'm a stream. Next time I will stream what these very opposition guys say about the United States and other places like that. He actually likes the war. Yeah.
Предсказанием апокалипсиса в данном случае сложно не сбыться. Мы смотрим, как мальчик бросил найденный на помойке газовый баллон в костер.
That's a good one.
У детей эпохи, когда Владимир Путин был ребенком, когда жестокие компьютерные игры еще не изобрели. Мы понимаем же, что такое действительно кончится бедой и для мальчика, и для окружающих. Вопрос только в том, когда шибанет и насколько сильно.
It's gonna be loud and painful.
И невозможно его убедить перестать этим заниматься. Поэтому окружающие гадают, когда будет пора убегать. Мы тоже пытаемся.
No, now it gets desktop audio. It's weird.
Мы не видим активной подготовки к чему-то большему. Тем более в таких фантастических масштабах, как описывает ВЧК УГПУ, предполагающие мобилизацию миллионов людей, изъятие вкладов и перевод остатков экономики на военные рельсы. На таком государство в нынешнем состоянии просто надорвется. Одно дело сделать мужчин боеспособного возраста невыездными, совсем другое реально их отлавливать и пытаться отправить на войну. Ситуация, описанная в ВЧК УГПУ, приведет скорее не к войне в Европе, а к кровавой революции в самой России.
Yeah, but at this point, everything he does will lead to a bloody revolution in Russia. I don't really know what's going to happen. What I know for sure is when these guys, Russian liberals, decide to come back to Russia and make the country democratic, then we're going to have to basically, they'll be able to see massive amounts of fail and people doing meaningless actions. They're going to go bad.
Если ничего нигде не зашатается, это будет сигнал. Страна готова к новым свершениям. И вот тогда стоит на самом деле бояться. Хотя, в принципе, и сейчас стоит. До завтра.
Well, yeah, this is what he takes into account when he's making decisions, and this is how it all comes together. The most important part is now you know why I think that the civil war in Russia is actually not the worst case, because then we're going to get nice little revanchism otherwise. And why this whole thing's stunned me, since I never thought that just a random fascist could be not fascist enough for these people, because that was just pure. I did not know they were as crazy to that level, but it really opened my eyes and made me understand quite a lot of things. And I hopefully everyone who actually listened to the first 40 minutes with the initial argument, the one about, if we don't believe in imperialism, then we're wrong, thing that they're going to see the whole stream. Because, oh boy, this was well worth it. But yeah, now I've set up my studio, and we'll definitely have some more things going on. Thank you all for watching, and of course, remember, happiness is mandatory, and stay safe. Stay safe, guys. And yeah, leave a like, leave a comment, and most importantly, especially the early parts, just script that stuff, and just if someone supports Putin around you, let them know. It's just the best I can do so that this world will be a better place. Okay. I'll say bye to everyone, especially to Vuchko, who is very active here. I say super special thanks to Faust, to Josso Slow, to everyone there. And also I hope you enjoyed in a bizarre way, this poem readings. So yeah.